Hey, everybody, and welcome to Adapt or Perish, episode 121, A Christmas Carol, part 3. Before we get started, a reminder that you can hop into your podcast player and scroll back to episodes 6 and 107 to hear us cover 14 of the most popular adaptations of the Dickens classic, including some of our favorites in parts 1 and 2. If you haven't heard them or want a refresher, I'd recommend it. But if you're ready for part 3 and 10 more adaptations, you're in the right place. Now, before we join our good friend Ebenezer, let's talk about our next episode. In episode 122, we'll be heading back to one of our favorite subjects, the works of Jane Austen. We've already covered Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Sense and Sensibility, and now we'll be turning our attention to Mansfield Park. In our next episode, we'll be discussing the original 1814 novel, the 1983 series, the 1993 theatrical movie, and the 2007 TV movie. That'll be out in 1 month on Tuesday, January 3rd. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections about today's episode or any others that you'd like to hear on the show, remember to email adaptorperishcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, we'd love it if you would share that with the world by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on Patreon at patreon.com/adaptcast. We've got a patron-only community and our monthly bonus show, Adapter Perish Plus, with episodes releasing between episodes of this show. We hope you check it out. Show notes from this and all other episodes can be found at adaptorperishcast.com. And with that, on with the show, Adapt or Perish, episode 121, A Christmas Carol, part 3. Hello and welcome to Adapt or Perish, a podcast about adaptation. I'm Jeremy Latour.
I'm Ari Lipshaw. Today we're doing a Christmas Carol. Again.
Again.
I
am so happy about our new Christmas tradition. I think it's the best, and I want to do it forever. And you know what?
We can.
We can.
No property has been adapted. So many. What is it? It's so many by so few to do so much with so little.
I want people to temper their expectations for this episode because I have a feeling, here's a fear that I have.
Yeah.
My fear is the quality of our episode is going to reflect the diminishing quality of the adaptations that we're watching.
I think that's a legitimate fear because we're starting to scrape the bottom of the sides of the barrel, middle of the barrel.
We're scraping the sides of the barrel. Like,
yeah.
I've talked to a number of people who have been like, man, you must be really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, no, that's the shocking thing about it.
We're not close to the bottom.
We can see the bottom of the barrel, but we're actually not there yet.
Yeah.
It goes so much further down.
It's Christmas carols all the way down. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone about our gamble? Our gamble that we lost?
Well, we rolled the dice a little bit because we were going to record last night and it was just getting kind of late. And
let's do a reenactment.
Yeah.
Hey, sweetie, are you okay?
No, I have a very bad headache.
Well, you know what? We don't have to record tonight. We've still got time. How about we record? Well, let's take tonight off and we can record tomorrow night.
Okay, that's fine. It's already 8:30, so, it's kind of late anyway, and I have a headache. I'm going to go to bed. And scene.
And then
Cue
this
4:30
morning,
in the morning.
4.
4.
4.
Was it 4?
It was 4.
Okay. Our kid fell out of bed, which was very sad for him. He was very sad. Awoke to screaming and he did not want to get back in his bed. He wanted to come into our bed, which would have been fine, except he didn't want to go to sleep. He thought it was morning and decided he wanted to have a conversation. And then, unbeknownst to us at the time,
well, this is so we said, buddy, you gotta go back to bed.
Literally had to drag him kicking and screaming back to his bed.
We picked up this 3-year-old and we carried him back to his bed, and he's kicking and screaming. And while I was holding him, I did that thing that so many parents understand. I realized that this kid's wet from pee, and so we had to change his jammies and his diaper, which is a normal thing. And then
it was unclear to us how the pee had escaped the diaper, but we didn't really question it in that moment.
It does. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you got in bed with him in his room.
Because he didn't want me to leave.
Yeah.
And he was sad.
And I just looked at you tired. I was like, geez, it's okay if do you want me to go?
Yeah. And I was like, just go. It's fine. Just go.
And I went back and I got back in our bed. by myself, and I thought, oh, this at least will be nice that I could get some peace and go there. And then I realized that our bed was wet because he had wet our bed. And so
I didn't know about any of this at the time. I was a little bit mad that I was in the bed getting kicked and asked to read books at 4:00 in the morning when I wanted to be asleep.
Meanwhile, I have all the lights on. Our extra sheets are up at the top of a shelf that we need to get a ladder to walk up. And every time we go up the ladder, we assume we're going to die.
Yeah, every time I have to go up that ladder, I come out and I say, just so you know, I'm going up the ladder.
Yep.
If you hear a scream or a thud, please come get me.
And I've never felt that more than this morning at 4:00 when I was climbing the ladder to get some sheets, stripping the entire bed, all the lights on. It was terrible. And
I had no idea any of this was happening.
Of the three of us, I think I'm the only one who didn't fall back to sleep.
Yeah, we did eventually fall back to sleep.
It was really sweet. So that was our morning.
Yeah.
And then when I woke up, I realized that the dishwasher hadn't run because the fuse had the breaker had flipped.
Yeah.
It was really great. It was a fun morning.
Yeah.
A really fun morning. And then that kid had the audacity, the absolute temerity
to be so chipper.
To be so cute when he woke up, that little shithead.
At 7:17 when you came into the room and were like, hey, anybody planning on getting up today? Because I had just awoken.
He was like, good morning, Daddy. Momo, what are you doing in my bed? This is great.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
So that's been our day. I'm really tired right now.
I'm really tired. And you were like, anyway, we rolled the dice because now it's much later than it was even last night when I was like, it's a little too late to start recording. Now it's much later.
And we're both very
tired. I don't know how we let this happen, but we're going to do our best. And I challenge anyone. We're definitely not going to finish recording tonight. So I challenge anyone to see where the join comes in as you listen to the episode.
Yeah, it was, and then Henry Winkler was pretty okay. And then in 1984, yeah, we're talking about Henry Winkler in this episode.
Amazing.
We have got so many Christmas carols to talk about.
So many.
Thought we could take a couple minutes here at the beginning and just kind of look back a little bit. Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
All right. So this is part 3. Part 1 of our look at A Christmas Carol, way back in episode 6. We thought we were being so complete when we look at 5. 5! What fools we were.
What fools!
Ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. I'm so ashamed of us. But then, only 101 episodes later, in episode 107, last Christmas, we did Christmas Carol Part 2, and we looked at 9 more. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I have a top 5 Christmas carols kind of going into this episode.
Yeah.
Do you have what are your favorites? What are the ones that you feel like any Christmas carols you're watching now have to meet or exceed?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, my opinion is unchanged from before we did any of these episodes. Muppets?
Yep.
Patrick Stewart, Alistair Sim.
Yep.
Top 3.
That's fair.
By far.
My top 5 is slightly different. All 3 of those are in it.
Yeah.
My top 5 is as follows. Number 5, Alistair Sim.
Yep.
Number 4, Guy Pearce. This is very personal.
That was not my favorite.
Totally fine. Totally fine. I don't blame anybody for not liking that one. I responded to it. It was just doing a whole bunch of things that I really liked, even though it was dark. Obviously, I would recommend that anyone, if you're listening to this episode, please do yourself a favor and go listen to parts 1 and 2. Like, please go back and do that because
maybe not 1. We didn't know what we were doing.
No, absolutely listen to 1 because we talk a lot of we talk about a lot of good stuff in 1, and we spend a lot of time talking about Patrick Stewart and Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of those are worth it. And Michael Caine. So number 5, Alistair Sim. Number 4, Guy Pearce. Number 3, Scrooge, starring Albert Finney. I will say, as you are listening to this episode, there is a new version of A Christmas Carol that was recently released on Netflix that is an animated adaptation of the Albert Finney musical Scrooge. We, however, are recording this before that release.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, it will not be in this episode. However, I am absolutely positive it's going to be in next year's episode.
Yeah.
Christmas Carol Part 4. Again.
Because we're going to do this till we die.
We're going to do this until we die or we run out.
Whichever goes first.
I don't know which one is more likely. We're bad at gambling. We have covered. Number 2, Patrick Stewart. Number 1, Muppets.
Obviously.
That's where I'm at. I will say my top 5 did not change as a result of this episode.
I mean,
much as your top 3 did not.
Nor, I think, did you expect them to.
My top 10, however?
Yes.
Absolutely changed
Oh.
as a result of this episode. In fact, I will say 4 of the ones we watched today are in my top 10.
All right. Well, maybe you should save that till the end.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. Those are the ones to beat. let's get started.
All right, let's do it.
Do you want to do this chronologically?
Yeah, go for it.
So let's talk about this book. Let's talk about The Story of a Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens in its 1943 novella. No, we're not going to do that. Of course we're not going to do that. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? Everyone knows this. Everyone knows the story. Listen to the other ones. Let's continue.
Stingy old man visited by ghosts. Change of heart. All is well.
Guy's a dick. Ghosts say, don't be dick. Guy says, I'm not a dick. It's
Hooray.
great. That's it.
Yes.
That's it. And Tiny Tim, who did not die.
God bless us, everyone.
All right. Would you like to start more than 100 years ago?
Kind of, yeah.
Let's do this. In 1913, there was a silent movie entitled originally Scrooge when it was released in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
It was re-released in the United States 13 years later in 1926, and it was retitled Old Scrooge.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Known only to people who are now long dead.
And the funny thing about it is the guy who played Scrooge would play the character for another 20-some-odd years.
Yeah.
So, like, in this version, he was not Old Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
He was Old Scrooge 20 years later.
Yeah.
When he was in the 1935 version that we talked about in part 2.
Sure.
So this is Seymour Hicks. So he did a silent version in 1913. We obviously talked about him when we did 1935's Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how long he was playing the character?
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, it was like 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, started playing him in 1901.
Yeah.
And then in 1935, he made Scrooge.
Yeah.
So this guy really owned the part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Patrick Stewart, eat your heart out.
Right.
Right?
Sure. I mean, they did make an interesting cut in this version.
Yep.
Because, being a silent film, it can only be so long.
Yes.
Like, it was under an hour, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating choice. They chose... So, like, what's the plot of The Christmas Carol, right? Scrooge gets visited by 3 spirits.
Sure.
They chose to cut all 3 spirits, not a spirit.
I mean,
not a single spirit.
it's one of those things where, like, you watch it, and I remember thinking to myself, like, obviously we look at that now and we question that decision.
Yeah.
But if you were seeing this in 1913, I don't know if you would be questioning that. It's not like you had already seen a whole bunch of other versions of it.
Yeah, but you've read the book.
Yes, but
I bet it seemed weird at the time. Well, because they give Marley a line saying, like, I'm here to represent all 3 spirits, but they don't actually. And there is, like, some special effects.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this one makes some additions. It
Yeah.
does some interesting things. Just to go back super quickly, this was directed by Leadham Bantock, starred Seymour Hicks as Scrooge. It also starts with Charles Dickens, which, as far as I can remember, of the 24 versions of A Christmas Carol we have now watched.
Yeah.
I believe only 2 actually begin with Charles Dickens.
And one is a Muppet.
One is Gonzo.
Yeah.
This one begins with Dickens saying, I got to come up with a story. I'll come up with a story about an old man who is a dick and has a lot of money. Yeah. And he does. Mm-hmm. How much of a pickle to look at is Seymour Hicks in this movie?
The whole movie, it's a bit of a pickle.
The whole thing is a bit of a pickle.
Yeah.
So it adds Dickens. As you say, it gets rid of the spirits. This movie definitely makes some interesting choices about where it wants to spend its time.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I was saying.
I know. Do you remember how much of this hour-long movie was just the opening scene with Scrooge, Fred, and Bob Cratchit?
A lot.
Like fully half of it.
A lot.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Well, I thought perhaps they only had the one set, and so they really had to, like, use it, while they had it.
And I think you were right, because the fact that Scrooge says, Bob, get out of here, go home, and he is just like, okay, cool, I'm going to go sleep in my chair that is in the same room.
Yeah.
And that's where everything happens.
Yes, correct.
Just the one set. Let's talk about these ghosts for a second.
Okay.
Thing I was going to say before, they add a line that, to me, shows an interesting interpretation of the book, because I feel like the way they were talking about the spirits was more of like the spirit of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like not actually a spirit that is a ghost.
Yes.
That has a face and a voice.
Yes.
And it seemed to be presenting it in a way where it worked for what they were doing.
Yeah.
It definitely is very strange to watch now, though.
Yeah, for sure.
You were talking about the special effects. I think you should bring that back up.
Yeah, just like for 1913, they have ghost effects that I was impressed by.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did a good job. They were like, hey, we learned how to do this thing. We're just going to keep doing it over and over and over again because it's the one thing we know how to do. It was great.
Yeah. Man, I wish I had more to say about this
I don't have a lot.
I just cut out like 2 full minutes of silence as we both look at our notes, trying to come up with other things to say. It's okay. It's okay. It is a I would say that this version is a curiosity at best.
Yes.
Do you feel like that is uncharitable?
I don't feel like it's uncharitable.
It just...
Yeah, these silent movies, it's hard to judge them by the standards of today or storytelling.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of these weird things where, like, you made a comment before about the length of it. Like, there were silent movies that were really long. We've watched silent movies that are, like, that are feature length, 90 minutes long, 2 hours long, something like that. It is very weird to me that they decided to spend half the movie on a scene with Charles Dickens and then everything that happens before Marley gets there.
Yeah.
And so Marley getting there, I'm just saying this this is not from a position of expectations.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're going to watch this and go, we've seen so many Christmas carols, we know the story, we have expectations of what should happen in a Christmas carol. Let's say you've never seen any version of a Christmas carol and you don't know the story at all, and this is the version you're watching for the first time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that person actually exists
Yeah.
today, but let's pretend. I would imagine even that person would say, man, that guy seemed like such an asshole, and he seemed like he's better way too quick.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like he goes straight from being a jerk to being redeemed, like, immediately.
Well, all it takes is one glance at one spirit, and he's terrified.
But that's it, right? Like, I feel like he's completely redeemed when he gets through looking at his own past.
Yeah.
And then when they get to the present, he's already like, oh, Tiny Tim. Oh, my goodness. Oh, it's Bob. What have I done?
They don't go hard on character development. It's okay. It's, it's like... They're doing their best.
Yeah,
they're doing their dang best.
Like, I'm happy that there's an arc, because
Yeah.
the story doesn't work if Scrooge doesn't have an arc. It just is, it's a heck of a way to do it in the span of a minute.
Yeah.
It is too quick. This whole thing is too short, too quick. It's weird that the spirits aren't there. They spend their time in weird places. I think that if you really are dead set on watching Seymour Hicks as the character that he was known for playing throughout the entire world, watch 1935 Scrooge instead.
Sure.
This is, as I said before, a curiosity at best. Do you have anything else to say about 1913 Scrooge?
I do not.
So, we just had a conversation off mic, but I'd like to bring it on mic, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I hate to make you say what you just said to me again.
Yeah.
But I think everyone needs to hear this, because I think it's a beautiful encapsulation of what our headspace has been like recently.
Well, I just said, wait a second, hang on. I feel like I'm missing something from my notes. I remember there was a version that was black and white that Bob was fired by Scrooge, and we were making jokes about how Bob Cratchit looked really well fed, and that that actor was married to the actor who played Mrs. Cratchit, and one of the kids was their real life daughter. But like, I'm not seeing it in my notes, and I don't understand, because like in my mind, like I'm having this weird deja vu that we already talked about it, but I don't see it in my notes. And you were like, yeah, that was last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, we just had this conversation just now, and I'm still not convinced that you're right.
No, it was that was Reginald Owen, 1938.
Let me consult my notes.
Are you flipping back a whole year?
That's so fucking weird. I wrote, Joe Mankiewicz can tell a story.
It's your first note. I can see it.
Yeah. That's so weird.
This is a well-fed Bob Cratchit. There
Yeah.
it is.
I don't know what to do with myself. I guess let's just keep going.
That's what you're going to do with yourself,
Yeah.
is we're going to keep going.
That was a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's
Time
go.
is weird. No better example of that than the fact that we are now jumping ahead 43 years. I am so happy about this one.
Okay.
Didn't even know this existed. There's no better reason, I would say, for anyone to join our Patreon at the all access level.
Yeah.
Because you get to hang out with us in Slack. We have a fun Slack that we hang out in with people.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for one of our listeners literally suggesting this one in the Slack, I still never would have heard of this version. And they brought it up a couple months ago. I'm trying to go back and find out who it was. I feel terrible. The Stingiest Man in Town.
Mm-hmm.
I did not remember that this was a thing at all.
What is it? The Alcor Television Hour?
The Alcoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Aluminum Company of America.
Okay. All right.
Alcoa.
Okay. That tracks.
The Alcoa Hour, 1956. So this was one of those. It's one of those TV shows we talk about all the time from the 50s.
Did not have the original commercials, which was really disappointing.
No, it had some Alcoa stuff at the end of it.
At the end, it had a little bit, but not the original commercials.
Well, it was presented by Alcoa.
That's fine.
Season 2, Episode 7 of The Alcoa Hour.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Daniel Petrie. Book by Janice Torrey. Music by Fred Spielman.
I have a question.
Yes.
Has any property
Mm-hmm.
in the history of
properties,
human literature,
mm-hmm.
been adapted into so many separate musicals? Because of the 24 Christmas carols that we've seen, like
36 of them are musicals.
36 of them are musicals, and they're all different musicals.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's the same musical that keeps, the same music over and over. There's some, like, classic Christmas Carol musical. There's so many different ones, all written by Jews, by the way. Side note.
Not all written by Jews.
This one was.
Often written by Jews.
Very frequently.
Well, I'm
this
assuming
one.
I did look. I could not find it. I do believe Fred Spielman.
Yeah, Spielman.
I'm going to go ahead and guess, but he only did the music.
All right.
Janice Torrey was the one who wrote the lyrics.
Okay.
I don't know about her.
Yeah.
I don't know what her affiliation is.
You think Fred Spielman's a nice Irish boy?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying about Fred Spielman. I think it is safe to say.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. I don't know. It is very strange. The Bible, maybe?
Yeah.
How many musicals has the Bible been turned
not
into?
Not as many.
Yeah.
I would say, like one.
No, what are you talking about? Godspell? Jesus Christ Superstar?
That's not the Bible, though, is it?
Of course it's the Bible.
No, like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, The Prince of Egypt.
But like those are all different stories.
Those
in
are all
this
different
one
stories,
giant book.
yeah.
This is literally like one story.
Yeah.
It is insane how many musicals there are. Like there's so many that we just keep finding them.
It just occurred to me it's a uniquely Jewish perspective to say the story of Jesus is like this automatic reaction. That's not the Bible.
I didn't even hear you saying it that way. Oh.
Oh, man.
Okay, but anyway,
We're the right ones to be talking about Christmas Carol for sure.
Stingiest Man in Town. It's the story of our people.
Yeah.
Starring Basil Rathbone as Scrooge.
He's delightful in this. Really very good.
Really doing the full Rex Harrison.
Yeah.
Like
the sort of speak talking thing.
There's a lot of things in this that I wasn't ready for. I wasn't ready to enjoy it as much as I did right off the bat. I wasn't ready for the songs to be as catchy,
very catchy
as they were.
He's a whole Bah Humbug song that's quite good.
Yeah, I mean, this is I still cannot remember. We watched that Kelsey Grammer one that it had originated on stage.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
And then they did the TV movie
that
with Kelsey Grammer.
Not very good. Yeah.
I can't remember any songs from that.
No.
At all. Whereas this one,
earworms all.
Earworms, almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
It is really well written. Basil Rathbone doing the full Rex Harrison.
Yep.
So into it.
Yeah.
And because this was a guy who had been in so many versions of A Christmas Carol, like always as Marley.
Yeah.
Always a Marley,
like,
never a Scrooge.
Finally, I'm the lead.
And here he is as Scrooge doing such an amazing job.
Yep.
He's so good.
And the rest of the cast filled out by basically like minor crooners of the 50s.
Yeah, so there are the carolers,
yep,
who are there as kind of the Greek chorus.
The four lads.
Throughout. Who are the four lads?
The four lads.
You're one of two types of people. Either you went, who? Or you went, holy shit.
It's not the four lads.
The four lads who recorded the original version of the song Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Oh my God.
Covered by They Might Be Giants.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so they're in it. Johnny Desmond is Fred. It's Vic Damone.
Yeah.
Vic Damone is young Scrooge.
Yeah.
And
he gets a song.
He is, as an actor.
Yeah. Not amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks nothing like Basil Rathbone, I will say. But you know what? Kid's got a good set of pipes on him.
Kid can croon.
Yep. Patrice Munsell plays Belle.
Yep.
I would describe her performance as operatic.
Yeah, sure. And then as Martha, another, as far as I can tell, minor crooner of the 50s, Betty Madigan,
I believe.
Who she was a thing at she was a thing at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she does the song "Yes, There Is a Santa Claus."
Yes, indeed she does.
She does a great job.
And otherwise notable. This was all live, right? And remember, we noticed at one point they screwed up their lines and just kept going like goddamn professionals.
Oh yeah, well, what is it? It's this was an example of Rathbone. I didn't write it down, but this was an example of Rathbone doing such a good job because there is
the famous line. They come to try to get money from him, and he says,
"Oh yes,
what can I put you down for? Nothing. You wish to remain anonymous. I wish to be left alone." A famous line. I wish to be left alone. Well, Mr. Character Actor screws up the line and says, "You wish to be left anonymous," and so Basil Rathbone, as a consummate professional, countering says, "I wish to remain alone."
Yeah.
Which I just thought was great. I thought, man, that he can think on his feet. Like these guys were trained for the stage.
Such a good job.
Yeah.
He did such a good job on this. Like, he has so much more energy than I expected him to have. And this was a guy who was not long for this world at that point.
Dancing, singing.
So great. I
It's
remember,
not long for
I
this
don't
world.
know. I don't know why. Like, the entire time we were watching it, I was comparing it to the Kelsey Grammer one. Who wrote that one again?
I believe it was Aarons and Flaherty.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The Marley song in that one, I remember being slightly offended that it was a klezmer bop.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm not offended by a klezmer bop.
Yeah.
There's nothing about a klezmer bop that would offend me, other than giving it to Marley
Yeah.
for his big song where he's trying to scare Scrooge.
Yeah.
If Marley is going to sing to Scrooge about his chains, the chains he forged in life,
Yeah.
then it should be kind of foreboding
Mhm.
and kind of creepy.
Yeah.
You know, like in the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, like we're Marley and Marley.
And like the one in this one, it's called I Wear a Chain.
Yeah.
And it is dour and menacing.
Yeah.
As it should be,
Mhm.
not a klezmer bop.
Yeah.
And I was just very happy about that. It is unfair for me to constantly bring up this other version just to talk shit about it.
Yeah.
But like it just kept looking, it just looks worse and worse the further we get away from it and the more other Christmas Carol musicals that I see.
Yeah. Which is many at this point.
Mhm.
The only other note I have is why is Peter 25? I do remember him being a full-grown man.
This is the one where he wants a suit that fits.
Yeah, he wants a suit that fits, but he's like a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
very silly.
Well, they're talking about him like the reason he needs a suit that fits is because he's a growing boy.
Yeah.
It's like, but when it's a grown man, you just assume that it's like a weight issue or
Yeah.
something like that.
So anyway.
Just in terms of the songs, I just want to spend another minute on this one because most of them felt like they came directly from a musical about a Christmas Carol.
Yes.
So like Scrooge has a big song called Humbug,
Yep.
and it is a bop.
Yes.
The Four Lads do The Stingiest Man in Town, the title song,
Yep.
a bop. Marley, I Wear a Chain. The Christmas Spirit was kind of, it's pretty much this musical's version of the Ghost of Christmas Present song from Muppet Christmas Carol.
Sure, right.
Like-
Because we're going to relate everything back to Muppet Christmas Carol,
Always,
obviously.
always. Called The Christmas Spirit. That was like an insane dance number
Yeah.
with all of the toys underneath the Christmas tree. Oh, that was the other thing about this one. Scrooge gets like shrunk down to the size of the toys.
Oh, yeah.
And it just brought us back to the Jim Carrey
Oh, my
Christmas
God.
Carol.
Unpleasantly, may I add.
Unpleasant. Like, we didn't ask to be brought back to that one.
No.
But like, we made fun of that one so hard for
Yeah.
like being the only version where, like, as we all remember from the story, Scrooge is shrunk down to the size of a mouse.
Yeah.
And in this one, it actually happens.
Slightly off the rails.
Decades before.
And then, of course, the famous tune, An Old-Fashioned Christmas.
Yeah. Yep. But the one I was going to mention was a couple I was going to mention. The Birthday Party of the King.
Yeah.
There is definitely some Jesus
Yeah.
directly in this Christmas Carol.
Right.
And you know what?
Putting
Fine
the
with it.
Christ back in Christmas.
I'm fine with it. You keep the Christ in Christmas. That's okay. Scrooge has a reprise of I Wear a Chain. And then he has his big finishing song, Mankind Should Be My Business, which
Yes.
is a great song. But I want to go back for a second to Golden Dreams / It Might Have Been.
Yeah.
And this is the big duet
Right.
that lasts fully 20 minutes.
Right. In the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between Vic Damone
Oh, boy.
and Belle. It's okay.
It's not.
It's the only one in the entire thing that I felt like could have been in anything.
Yeah.
There was like almost nothing in it that actually had anything to do with the story of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. It's to give these cool stars a chance to show off and do their crooning.
Yeah, and it was one of the only lulls in this entire thing. Like, it is a delight.
Yeah.
Beginning to end. It is rough to watch. They make lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
It's live TV,
It's fun.
but it's super fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought it was really fun.
One last thing I want to say about this one before we move on, something I talked about in previous episodes, is how long should the Rag and Bone Man scene be? Muppet Christmas Carol version, famously, under a minute.
Yep.
Which is exactly how long that scene should be.
He times them.
It's one of the reasons why the Alistair Sim one is still not like top 3 for me.
Yeah.
Because that scene, as I recall, 17 minutes long.
2.5 minutes.
It's like 5 minutes.
All
It
right.
is 5 to 7 minutes.
All right.
It is far too long.
The Patrick Stewart one is very long.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
This one, though, exactly how long the scene should be.
30 seconds.
Very, very short, well under a minute. I have a lot of respect for that. I will be keeping track informally as we continue. So, spoiler alert, we're not done talking about The Stingiest Man in Town, But before we continue talking about it, we got to take a little sidebar and take a trip 21 years ahead to 1977 for the BBC special of A Christmas Carol, directed by Moira Armstrong, written by Elaine Morgan, starring Michael Hordern as Scrooge. Michael Hordern, who's he's not quite a friend of the pod yet, but I feel like he's popping up more and more.
We've seen him in stuff.
Seen him in a number of things. I like Michael Hordern. He's really good. Did you have any experience with this one?
No, I don't think so.
Like, this was one of those ones that I feel like I always saw the poster of. Like, if you look up adaptations, it was one of those ones that, like, we easily could have done last year or the year before. And I think we just were more interested in some of the other ones. But it's like, BBC in the 70s does an adaptation of A Christmas Carol.
Yep.
We just weren't that excited about it because, like, how good was it possibly going to be?
Yeah.
Sure, it's going to be good.
Yes.
Turned out,
it was fine.
it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was okay. I mean, judging by my notes, of which I did not take any, it did not leave an impression either positive or negative on me.
Yeah.
I mean, I take the most notes on things that I hate. Close second, things that I like, followed by no notes on things that I'm like, eh. So I have no notes on this.
This is like with a capital Eh.
Yeah.
Like, it is fine.
Notable cast?
Yeah, like there are okay, so here are some people who are in it who are notable. Michael Hordern, I already said.
Yes.
I like the guy. John LeMessurier, is that correct?
I think so.
He plays a pretty good Marley.
Also, my guess, Not Long for This World in 1977 was John LeMessurier.
I mean, you never really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes people live to 1,000,000.
I don't have the information here in front of me. I want to talk about the Ghost of Christmas Past, played by Patricia Quinn. This was fun to see. And it's like a bummer that she's only okay in it.
Yeah.
I don't really think they're using her very much.
Yeah. Her makeup was weird. Her costume was really weird.
Yeah.
It was very strange.
Tell everyone, if people don't know Patricia Quinn by name, what's the thing people know her from?
She's Magenta in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, like that's not nothing.
Yeah.
There are two other people who I'll mention that I think are noteworthy. One of them is the narrator, who is Brian Blessed. There's not that much narration in it, but it's nice to hear his voice at the beginning.
My dears.
But let's talk about Belle for a second.
Yes.
Belle, played by an adorable, incredibly young Zoe Wanamaker.
Yes.
Who's she's great in her like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And I will say this. How dare Scrooge break Zoe Wanamaker's heart?
How dare he?
How dare he?
So notable cast.
Somewhat
notable cast.
Oh my God. And most notable, who is Martha in this version?
Oh, it was Zella Clark. It was our favorite Jane Eyre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only other thing I've ever seen her in.
Yeah.
Very adorable.
As good in this as she was in Jane Eyre, which is to say fantastic.
Yeah.
And let's do an abridged version of our plea from Jane Eyre. It is sad that she was not in more stuff.
Yes, correct.
She's really good in this. So, it's got a good cast. It makes interesting choices. It does one thing that I feel like we don't see many of them do, which is it keeps the Ghost of Christmas Present showing Scrooge what Belle's life is like now.
Yes. That is from the book. And it is a scene I've always liked, and it's not in very many versions.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm glad they included it.
Yeah.
That's nice. I feel like this is a relatively thoughtful adaptation. The problem with it is I feel like it doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't done out of a passion for A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, let's get these crazy kids together and do a show. We've got these sort of medium level actors that are available. Let's do A Christmas Carol.
This is what we do. We do classics. We need content. We need content, everybody. We need content. I'm Mr. BBC. I need content.
Yes.
I don't know. This is the first time in this episode that I feel like I'm going to say this phrase that is going to come up a number of times, which is you don't get an A just for showing up.
Yeah.
If you are the Beeb, and you've got the costumes, and you've got the writer, and you've got the director, and you've got the actors, you don't just get an A for showing up.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of that, where, like, it's fine. This is a C.
Yeah.
I think a C minus, maybe.
Sure.
It is one of those ones where if someone said that this was their favorite version, I wouldn't look down on them for it.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. It's good. And if it's the kind of thing you, like, grew up on, I can see that. And it's got its moments. And Michael Hordern's good. And Zella Clark is in it. If you said, here's the deal, there's something that this version does that no other version does, it has Magenta from the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Zella Clark.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, I can't argue with that.
Yeah. But have you seen The Muppets? That I would say.
I mean, I would say
just
like
try the Muppets. You might like it.
But have you seen these other 10 versions of A Christmas Carol? There's a whole bunch of other ones. Like some that have stuff that's like worse than this one, but also things that are way better.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing. It's like nothing in it is like terrible, but a bunch of stuff in it is questionable and almost nothing is
good.
Great.
Yeah.
Also, the Joe scene is longer than a minute.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm out. Oh, and the Joe scene, the Rag and Bone Man scene, it's all happening in Scrooge's chambers. Do you remember that? It's all in his room. Like they're literally in his house. And he's still there with the Ghost of Christmas Future going, who are they talking about?
Yeah, no, I do remember that.
Who is this dead man that they're talking about who who is lying dead in a bed that looks exactly like mine, in a room that looks exactly like mine?
In my house.
Surrounded by people who I know personally. Who could this man possibly be?
How could we possibly find another set?
And like, if they were playing, if their intention was that like, oh no, Scrooge knows, he just doesn't want to admit it to himself, I'd be fine with that, but I don't think that comes out. I don't think that actually is apparent in their version. Whether or not it was something they were thinking behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like that, I remember now is like the moment where this one kind of goes off the rails for me.
Yeah.
It makes weird decisions and doesn't really show up.
Yeah.
That's my problem with this one.
Well, do you want to talk about the stingiest man in town again?
We just spent so much time talking about the stingiest man in town. What other stuff could we possibly have to say about the stingiest man in town?
Do you want to talk about the animated version of Stingiest Man in Town from 1978?
Yes, I do, because it's even better.
Yeah, it was good. We were delighted by this. I don't know what happened between 1956 and 1978 that made this like better, because we liked it fine. But I don't know, something very charming happens when you take this particular property and animate it.
But I would also say like animated in this particular way.
Yes.
Because this wasn't your like American animation of the day. This is a classic Rankin Bass 2D animated special.
Yeah.
By the way, this is something we talk about all the time. I have 100% seen this.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely had that moment when we were watching it where like, oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
I don't remember where. I don't remember when. Safe to say it was in my house when I was a kid.
Yeah, reasonable assumption.
On television.
Yes.
But I definitely remembered it because the thing that jumped out at me is they add a character.
Mm-hmm.
They add the character of B.A.H. Humbug Esquire.
Yes.
Voiced by Tom Bosley himself. Not the last person from Happy Days who's going to be showing up in this episode.
It's wild.
And like, I seem to remember, you tell me if I'm wrong, I seem to remember that when B.A.H. Humbug shows up, you were kind of mad about the pun.
Yeah, I thought it was dumb.
Yeah.
I still think it's kind of dumb.
Oh, I was wondering, because that was my question is, did you get over thinking that it was dumb?
No, I think it's pretty dumb.
It's a little dumb.
It's a little dumb. Why not just make him Charles Dickens?
Yeah. But he's Bah Humbug.
Yeah.
And he's there.
I get it.
But he takes the place of the four lads.
Yeah.
Because the four lads are not in this. Because who in 1978 is you're not gonna animate the four lads.
No.
Make a bug. Do the Jiminy Cricket thing and make him a bug.
Sure.
And it's a fine addition to this. One of the things that I was thinking is like there's lots of different animated versions, and one of the things that's really great about Rankin and Bass is that, you know, people know their stop motion stuff. So like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and The Year Without a Santa Claus and so on and so forth. Heat Miser, Snow Miser, et cetera, et cetera. But they also did 2D stuff. And one of the things I love about their 2D stuff is that the 2D stuff all had a very similar feel for a couple of different reasons. Like one, they always use the same like designers to design the characters. But the other thing is that they tended to work with the same company to do the animation, which was a company called Topcraft in Japan. And there were many people, Topcraft, like basically there was a huge contingent within Topcraft that went on to become Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
So this is, there's some anime royalty kind of working on this one. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful. And some of the character designs are incredible. Like, absolutely incredible. Like, the one that sticks out for me more than any was Marley and the rest of the ghosts. Because there's that scene where Marley says, come to the window and look out at all these spirits who are all sad because of the stuff they did in life. And he looks out and, like, you know, we've watched versions where it's like, oh, there's some ghosts floating through the air. And then we watch versions where Jason Alexander is singing a klezmer pastiche.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of ghosts dancing. But this one is like, every single you could freeze frame it and look at every single one of the ghosts that are outside the window, and every single one of them has an interesting design, and every single one of them could have been Marley, for example. Like every single one of them could have been a speaking role.
Yeah.
The design for the ghosts is fantastic, and it goes to all of the characters. I love the design of it. The other top craft Rankin Bass special that we've talked about on the show was The Hobbit, which was the 70s animated Hobbit, which is one of my favorite things of all time.
Yeah.
But I love that part of it. But it is the stingiest man in town. Super quick. Directed by Katsuhisa Yamada and Jules Bass and Arthur Rankin Jr. Produced by Rankin and Bass. Written by Romeo Muller. And starred your friend and mine.
Friend of the pod.
Almost friend. Is he friend of the pod yet?
No, I don't think so. He hasn't been in a lot of adaptations.
No, he was in Bad News Bears.
Yep.
He was in Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And I can't
And I think
I think this. So we're going to have to watch more Walter Matthau stuff in order to make him friend of the pod. I'm actually curious. What did you think of Walter Matthau, but the voice cast in general?
I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I'm a huge Walter Matthau fan.
Yes.
Probably one of my top 5 favorite actors of all time.
He's in your favorite movie of all time.
That's true.
Is it your favorite movie?
Out to Sea?
Yeah.
No, but it's top 5 for sure.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm looking at my notes, and you would think from my notes that I did not like this movie, but I think what happened was the first 5 or 10 minutes were kind of weird, and so I was taking a bunch of notes thinking it wasn't going to be good, and then I got really into it and stopped taking notes and was just enjoying myself.
Yeah.
First of all, everyone's just doing their own natural accent. There's no British accents in this at all.
I don't think there's a single one to be found.
Yeah, Walter Matthau's just doing it himself, which is somewhat charming.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wrote singing not amazing.
His singing is fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't think I meant him specifically.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I just thought in general singing was not amazing. And I wrote the bug is going to tell us about Jesus. I don't really remember what that was in reference to.
The bug does tell us about Jesus because it does have the song that I mentioned from the other one before, which is The Birthday Party of the King.
Right.
I believe that is also in this version.
Right. I believe there was also, and I don't remember what section this was from, but I did write down that there was a shot that was shot for shot from Muppet Christmas Carol, and I was wondering if that was an influence on Muppets.
It would not surprise me if it was. It is, I'll be honest, it is killing me right now that I can't remember what the shot is.
Because we talked about it at the time.
Yeah, and it was striking how much it looked like a shot from Muppet Christmas Carol.
I think it might have been when Scrooge is walking through the town and everyone's kind of cowering. I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. It was towards the beginning for sure.
I don't remember. Is he flying to the past and B.H. Humbug is hanging from him?
That's right. It's when he's flying to the past. That's exactly right. He's flying over the houses.
Yeah.
And B.H. Humbug is holding on to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same shot from Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah. If it turned out that it was in any way an inspiration, it would A, not surprise me, and B, just make this even more delightful than it already is. Yeah. Which is, as we've said, super delightful.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Two Nice Jewish Boys?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Walter Matthau.
Yeah.
Which is not his real name.
No.
And Ted Bickle.
Yeah.
Ted Bickle is Marley. Sorry, am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Theodore Bikel.
Theodore Bikel.
There you go.
Tevye
himself.
We never get to tell this joke on the show.
Yeah.
But a joke that we've had for a really long time is that I would just love to meet someone who grew up with Theodore Bikel or went to high school with Theodore Bikel and just have someone say hey, do you know Theodore Bikel? And it's like, oh, Ted Bickle? Yeah, I know Ted Bickle.
This is one of Jeremy's favorite jokes.
It tickles me.
Yeah.
But yeah, these two nice Jewish boys as Marley and Scrooge.
It's amazing.
I don't know. If I could literally make the decision to be offended by it, but I would have to make the decision to be offended.
You'd have to make that choice.
Because I'm not allergic to fun.
Yeah.
Can I talk about a few more people who are in the cast?
Sure.
Robert Morse plays a young Scrooge, which is delightful. Because Robert Morse, he's got Broadway bona fides. He was in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Oh, sure.
The original version of it. People may know him as Bertram Cooper from Mad Men. He was a song and dance man from way, way, way back. And then there's the boy, played by Charles Matthau.
We couldn't actually figure out which boy it was supposed to be.
I think it's the boy. I think it's the boy who gets the turkey.
Okay.
Or the goose at the end. Is it turkey? It's turkey.
I don't know. I think maybe.
It's a bird.
Not sure.
Who gets the dead bird at the end?
Unclear.
Here's the thing that this one does that I really, really loved. It made, before I was talking about Golden Dreams, that song from the first version of it,
Yeah.
that could have been in anything and didn't really feel like anything related to A Christmas Carol to me.
Yeah.
This one made it work.
Yeah.
Like, Golden Dreams really, really worked
Uh-huh.
because it's animated. They were able to actually show you things that are not easy to do on a live television show in 1956.
Of course.
On a set. If I recall, I know we're done talking about that one, but if I recall, it was basically trying to show the years that Scrooge and Belle were together.
Yeah.
And showing his the change that was happening in him. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that he's becoming obsessed with money.
Right.
But what they're choosing to do is have him surrounded by a bunch of absolutely beautiful young men
Yeah.
in tights doing dances around him.
Yep.
And all I could think of is this is his years where he was experimenting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen.
This one, though, rather than just having like kind of a weird dance number that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, they're talking about their vision of life for themselves.
Yeah.
And they actually get to show it because it's animated.
Yeah.
And they go all out, and they actually made the song make sense, and the design was great.
Yeah.
And now that I'm looking at my notes, I'm a liar. I'm a dang liar.
What's up?
I said that in the 1956 version, Scrooge just shrunk down to the size of a mouse
That's not that. That's
and
this.
dances with the toys.
Yeah, I was actually thinking I don't remember this, but I generally tend to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that. It's
Don't-
just this.
It's just this
just
one.
the animated one. Of course, it's just the animated one. How could they have done it on
Well,
a TV set?
No, but that's the thing. In the original version, in
Yeah.
the 1956 version, he is dancing with a whole bunch of toys
Yeah.
that are the same size as him.
Sure.
I am now remembering that it's because the toys were big,
Right.
not because Scrooge was small.
You're gonna leave this all in. I hope.
Oh, all of it. All
every
of it.
word. Every word.
Every single word. This is the one where Scrooge gets shrunk down.
I do remember
And
this.
because
now.
my note from this is, holy shit, remember when Scrooge gets shrunk down to the size of a mouse?
Yes.
We've seen it now in two different versions. 1978's The Stingiest Man in Town and the Jim Carrey.
Despite
A
that,
Christmas Carol.
we still liked this version.
Mm-hmm. The old Joe scene was literally 15 seconds long.
Thank God for that.
Oh, and they also made a really, which I love. They also made a really good choice in terms of, because it's funny that we're watching this. Like this sometimes happens where we always talk about adaptations, but sometimes we get to do a little episode of Adapt or Perish within a bigger episode.
Yeah.
Because this is itself an adaptation of an older version.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. They make some good cuts,
Yeah.
I would say, and some good additions. I think adding the bug is great. It's for kids. I'll allow it. I like BAH Humbug, and I like Tom Bosley.
I just don't understand why the bug sings the Jesus song.
Because why not?
All right.
How do you know what the bug's affiliation is?
I don't. I just don't know why the bug sings the Jesus song.
Because no one else was going to.
All right.
And because Fred's part was reduced in it.
Yeah.
Like quite a good deal. In the 1956 version, there's a scene that we didn't really mention, which is, as we all know, the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come takes Scrooge to the cemetery where he shows him his own grave. That's all that has to happen. But sometimes versions decide to do other stuff. And the 1956 version decides to do this gigantic 15-minute long insane dance number that's like all of these spirits,
Mhm.
demons, what would you call them? It felt very Night on Bald Mountain to
Yeah.
me. Like,
I can see that.
just dancing around the cemetery, doing all this. It was like a weird combination of Night on Bald Mountain and the Frumacera scene
Yeah.
in Fiddler on the Roof. This one cuts all of that.
Yeah.
It was very strange. Scrooge had nothing to do in it. It was just, let's fill time. And this one makes the good decision to cut it.
Yes.
And so it goes to Christmas Future, brings Scrooge there and says, grave. And it's Scrooge's grave. And then he is redeemed. And it's a delight. It's a delight. It is so good.
It's very good.
And it just makes me sad that of all the Rankin Bass Christmas specials, of which there are many, this one doesn't get the attention I feel it deserves.
Mhm.
Everyone's all about Rudolph.
We'd never heard of it.
And Year Without a... Well, as I found out, I'd seen it before.
There you go.
But I'd forgotten about it.
Mhm.
And I just feel like this one should be up there because it is a delight, and I'm so glad that we watched it. Okay, I just want to say,
Yeah.
before we talk about this one,
Yeah.
I really wanted to like this one. I
Yeah.
really, really did. We'll get back to that in a second.
Okay.
In 1979, a crazy movie was made for television.
I think this one wins the Bugfuck Nuts award for this episode.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
This one is insane.
Yeah.
This is An American Christmas Carol.
How much cocaine in 1979 do you think was involved in the conception of this?
You know what? I'm in the inception?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
I wasn't not to say in the production, but in the actual like conceiving the idea for this.
I don't know. This to me doesn't feel like it's like a cocaine-fueled fever dream.
Okay.
This feels to me like so many of these do, where a bunch of people were like, we'll just show up.
Yeah.
We'll show up and we'll get it done.
I don't know. It feels weirder than that to me. Anyway, describe what we're talking about.
We are talking about An American Christmas Carol, 1979, directed by Eric Till, written by Jerome Cooper Smith, and starring Henry Winkler as Benedict Slade.
Mm-hmm.
He's our new Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Because it's an American Christmas Carol, produced entirely in Canada.
Yeah. God.
But that's not the reason why it's insane. That's not it.
But that's not.
But
that's
it doesn't
not
help.
It doesn't help. 1979 is the year my parents were married, and I just like to think of them, in the first 6 months of their marriage, sitting down to watch old Henry Winkler.
I mean, let's talk about the context of time for a second.
Yeah.
Because I have just always had this idea in my head that this TV movie happened like definitely after Happy Days was done.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is Henry Winkler doing a serious TV movie, a serious holiday TV movie, and also another Jew playing, but he's not playing Ebenezer Scrooge.
No.
He's playing Benedict Slade.
Right.
This aired like in the middle of Happy Days.
It's so weird.
Like if you were just a normal TV watcher in 1979, on December 11th, you would have watched their closing Inspiration Point, an episode of just a regular episode of Happy Days.
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, you could have watched this.
It's very strange.
Truly insane.
Very, very strange. The thing that I think I said to you about this one is that, like, when you take it out of London, like the metropolis, and make him the richest man, like you make him Mr. Potter, right? Like from Bedford Falls, like I don't know, it loses something. I'm not sure what, but it loses something.
I mean, it speaks to the strength of the original story that like it is about someone who is a dick who learns not to be.
Yeah.
It still kind of works.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying this movie doesn't work at all. It works a little bit despite its insanity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it loses a lot by moving it to a small town.
It's very strange. So you have Benedict Slade and his Bob Cratchit equivalent going around doing the traditional, apparently, as is tradition, the Christmas Eve repossessions.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of driving around town in a horse and cart, repossessing things.
There's no horse. I think it's
a motor car.
It's motorized.
It's like a motorized truck, taking people's radio.
Truck, some people call it.
Yeah, taking people's radios, and this is like Depression era.
Yeah.
So they're taking like the orphanages
piano
and like the nice black couples radio, like the one joy in their lives, and the antique booksellers books.
Which books do they take?
They take quote a first edition of A Christmas Carol. You and I both looked at it and went, that's not a first edition. They didn't go to any trouble to make it look like an actual first edition of a book.
It was just like a book
it was like
that
a pamphlet.
Someone wrote
yeah.
on a piece of, like on an index card, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and taped it to the front.
Yeah.
So like, let's say we could just get past for a second the idea that A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens exists in this world.
Yeah.
Let's get past that for a second.
Yeah.
Just the prop work is terrible.
Yeah.
Like the production design is
it's not good.
Falling down at that point. But now let's go back and assume that it actually is bullshit.
Yeah.
That A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens exists in this world.
It's complete nonsense. So we learn that Benedict Slade was raised briefly in this orphanage.
Yeah.
And adopted by nice people, and we get to see
by a businessman.
Younger Henry Winkler in a mustache.
No, normal. We get to see standard Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still
with but his hair's very 1979 feathered.
Yeah, very feathered, very floby, and a mustache.
Also, I don't think I said it already.
Yeah.
I fucking love Henry Winkler.
No, I know.
Henry Winkler's great. I fucking love the guy, and I got no beef with him, and I was delighted to see him in anything.
Can you remind me what the deal is with the orphanage? Because I wrote down they're all orphans.
Yes.
His adoptive father comes to the orphanage. This is a flashback, of course,
Yep.
that goes to Christmas past, and says, I really want to adopt a child, but I really want to adopt someone who really needs me the most.
Yeah.
And that was my reaction. I was like, but they're all orphans, every one of them. It's not like any of them are privileged. Like there's no. And so he gets Benedict, who's like hiding in the corner.
This little shithead in the corner.
Yeah.
That's his whole deal.
I also wrote makeup is a pickle.
Oh, the makeup is terrible.
Yeah.
Do you know who was an advisor on this? A makeup advisor?
Who?
Rick Baker. Do you remember talking about Rick Baker? We
No.
talked about Rick Baker when we did King Kong. He did the Jeff Bridges King Kong.
Okay.
He was King Kong.
Yeah.
He was the one in the suit.
Yeah.
Like, he's Hollywood makeup royalty.
I mean, he probably didn't have much of a budget for this.
It looks terrible.
Yeah.
It just looks terrible.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was confusing is like the ages are wild because you have Henry Winkler, who's 35 views a day, like if not 40.
Yeah.
Playing his younger self as well as his older self. So he's basically playing two ages, neither of which he was. He was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And then like the woman playing his adoptive mother did not age between bringing him home
as a little kid
and him being a full grown-ass man.
Mm-hmm.
But her daughter, of course, is his love interest, and she had grown up. Like the ages are wild, very confusing.
Yeah.
So it all ends. The good ended happily, and the bad ended unhappily.
Let's back up for a second. So this takes place in. Now we were angry at first.
Yeah.
Because they say it's Depression era.
Right.
Concord.
Concord.
And we were like, oh, it's Concord. And then they go, Concord, New Hampshire. Like, okay.
But they're still saying.
We don't know.
I think it's still Concord, New Hampshire.
I'm pretty sure it's Concord, New Hampshire.
Yeah, it's not Concord. It wasn't as bad as that Little Women.
The thing we can agree on is that it is not Canada.
Yeah.
It is definitely not Canada. Do you know what's one thing in this movie that proves that it's not Canada?
Not our Bob Cratchit.
No, our Thatcher.
Yeah.
You mean our Bob Cratchit stand-in Thatcher, played by
yeah.
goddamn treasure R.H. Thompson.
We love him.
Who we have not talked about in a dog's age. I tell ya.
Not quite friend of the pod, but
our favorite Matthew Cuthbert.
Yeah.
He's just a treasure, and you know what? He's so good in this.
Yeah.
He is just a treasure.
He's got a son with an unspecified condition, and
I mean, everything with his family is terrible.
It's terrible. They've got to go to Australia, and also he came inside, and I was like, these people are not poor. Like, this house is very nice.
Yeah.
Although small. Like, it looked like there was sort of a bed in the living room. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have enough room. But the kid has to go to Australia for a treatment.
Treatment for what?
For his condition.
Oh, he has a condition,
He has a condition. Yeah, he has a crutches and occasional cough condition.
He has a Ghost of Christmas Future will tell Scrooge that I will be dead soon condition.
Yes. He has a condition. Because he does, it is very sad, because he does, in one timeline, die. Because he's tiny. But he's such a good dad. He's so cute with the kid. He's cute with the kids. He's cute with the wife. The wife is sweet. Like, it's a nice little family that they have.
It's okay. I didn't care for it.
You didn't care for it?
R.H. Thompson himself is great.
Yeah.
Oh, and he does get fired.
Yes, he does get fired in
one
this
of the few versions where he gets like actively
fully fired.
Has to go home and tell his family
wife on Christmas Eve.
You know what? There was one moment in this that I really loved because like the sister and the brother, the two kids, are talking and they finally like confront the parents and they're like, here's the deal. We know something is going on. Whatever is actually going on can't be as bad as what we're imagining it is.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us what's happening?
Yes.
And we watching that and go like, holy shit, like I never see kids say something like that. It was so refreshing to see something so wise and mature to hear from a kid in a movie.
From the mouth of a child.
I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the rest of it. Let's talk about what Benedict, well, we'll call him Ben. Let's talk about what he is guilty of.
Okay. Repossessing things that are treasures
so he's
to people.
He's a dick.
Yeah.
Like he's a dick.
Yeah.
In the past sequence, we see that he was adopted by this businessman who is a manufacturer. As we've seen more than once, our main character invents
mass production.
Yep. And so
he wants to put the town into, shall we say, a stool boom.
Yes. And good job.
But that is literally what happens.
Yes. Well, no, the town doesnthing get a stool boom because they won't take his advice about mass production.
That's right.
And so they do everything artisanal chair. They're
Right.
chairs. They're
Right.
not stools, they are chairs. But it was a solid joke.
From
It was
the
real
parlor
solid.
to the poor.
Yep. Some for selling, some for keeping. So he grows up and becomes like second in command to his adoptive dad in the factory.
At the stool factory.
It's a chair factory. And
it's not even a factory, it's a workshop.
Yeah.
The whole point is it's a workshop.
Right.
It's not a factory.
He quits because they're leaving so much money on the table.
Yeah.
And he comes back and like kind of almost drives the guy out of business, but not really.
And like the workshop maybe burns down
No.
at one point. Oh, sorry.
No, that's the thing. The workshop absolutely burns down.
Yeah.
Like you said, the only reason I was not maybe, definitely.
It definitely burns down.
It definitely burns
the
down.
maybe was not maybe in the movie. The maybe was maybe in my recollection. Am I correct in thinking that the workshop burns down?
No, the workshop definitely burns down, and it's really sad. But then and this is the way the movie is setting it up, is that they're telling us, here's how shitty a person he is. In light of this tragedy, he still partners with this other guy to manufacture chairs and sell them in installment plans.
Yeah.
And
he
so,
also invents installment plans.
Yeah. So, like, he's guilty of doing business adjacent to a tragedy.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't cause the tragedy. He didn't even take advantage of the tragedy.
Yeah, he didn't himself personally burn down the workshop.
He didn't even benefit from the tragedy. Like, the tragedy just happened.
Yeah.
Like, the thing he's guilty of is, like, maybe being a little bit callous.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, they don't do enough to sell us on this guy being so bad.
Yeah. I mean, he's guilty of, like, trying to talk business at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
You know?
And then he talks to the ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah.
Who is the guy he took the radio from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the ghosts are people we've met in the real world. It's definitely a very like, and you were there, and you were there,
but
type
like
feel.
modern 70s.
Well, that's the thing I was gonna say, is like he shows up in this Depression era movie,
Yeah.
and he is dressed like a crazy 1979's guy,
Like a cool guy.
so cool, and his collar is so wide, and he's got a gold chain and everything. And I was sitting there thinking, like, why would they do? What is this weird vintage? And then I remember, like,
It's not vintage.
it's not vintage.
It's very neutral.
Just very modern.
Yeah.
They were like, no, the Ghost of Christmas Future dresses like a modern man
Mhm.
for our time.
Yep.
You know, the modern day of
The
1979.
The modern man.
I did not care for that.
Yeah.
And then can we talk about how it ends?
Yes.
It ends.
I may have blocked it out. Go ahead and tell me.
The story, as we all know, is not over when he wakes up on Christmas morning.
Yes.
Right? A few things have to happen.
Boy, what day is it? Et cetera, et cetera.
Right. He's got to be nice to Cratchit. He's got to
turkey plot.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so in this one, he gives Thatcher his job back
Yep.
with a raise. He
Yep.
also
Sends the boy to Australia.
he gets them tickets to send the boy to
Just
Australia.
the boy.
Yeah, just the boy, not one of his parents.
That was confusing to me.
Yep. Then they go in their truck and return all of the things they repossessed the day before.
Yes.
And like all of that for me, even though it's not from the original, it all feels like it fits in with the plot of the original.
Yeah.
Then
Yep.
the way they decide to end their movie is he goes to the orphanage and adopts a boy.
Yeah.
He walks in and he says, I want a boy, a young boy, for my factory.
Yep.
And we get a whole scene of him taking the boy to the factory and saying, like, you're going to be my ward. You're going to live with me. And he, like, keep in mind, he is a pickle to look at. Like, just truly horrifying old age makeup at this point.
Yeah.
What is this? What is it?
I don't know.
What are they doing?
Well, he's redeemed.
Yeah, but, like, he was already redeemed.
I
Why
mean,
do we need him to adopt a
He
child?
wants to make amends because he wants to bring up a boy like he was brought up to be. It's like maybe sort of an all about Eve situation.
But that was something they invented.
Well, they want to follow through with their invention. They want to be internally consistent.
I was just saying, if your goal with anything like this is to stick the landing, why stick the landing with something that
I don't know why you're making me defend this terrible movie.
I'm not asking you to defend it. I'm asking you to play devil's advocate and explain to me why it's okay to do this.
I don't, sweetie, you're wasting your gum.
This was terrible.
Yeah.
And it really bums me out because, as I said before, I really wanted to like this one.
Yeah.
Because I really like Henry Winkler. I read a really sweet story where someone wrote a review of it, and they were like, this was always my mom's favorite version of A Christmas Carol, and I had our copy on VHS, and I met Henry Winkler at an event once, and I brought it up to him to sign, and I said, this is my mom's favorite version of A Christmas Carol, and he leaned into me and he whispered, mine too. And like that sounds like Henry Winkler because he is just a really, really sweet guy.
Yeah.
By all accounts, just a prince of a man.
Sure.
And so I read that and I went into this going like, I just want to believe that everyone's heart was in the right place. And then we watched it and like I didn't mind it at first. It was making some choices that I thought were okay. And then it just got worse. And then it got worse. And then it got even worse.
Mm-hmm.
But then
it ended poorly.
It got a little bit better.
Yeah.
But then it got worse.
Yeah.
And worse and worse. And it just ended so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really expect that it would be good, and I was right.
Oh, I suppose you're some kind of ghost of Christmas present. That's what he says to the ghost of Christmas present.
I know. I was there.
I hate that.
Let's move on.
Okay. 1983. This is another one of those ones that, like, we're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. This has been around for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Mickey's Christmas Carol. It was on the Disney Channel all the time. Entire generations have grown up with this. I'd never seen it. Had you ever seen it?
Not to my knowledge.
Luckily, it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So we got to watch it.
It was okay.
It was released originally in 1983, theatrically, with the reissue of 1977's The Rescuers.
Gotcha.
There's a lot in that
sentence. There's a lot in there. Yeah, that's a lot.
And then a year later, in December of 1984, it aired on NBC for the first time on TV.
All right.
As I say, it was on TV many, many times, on the Disney Channel many, many times. Directed by Bernie Mattinson. Story by, here's many names, Bernie Mattinson, Tony L. Marino, Ed Gombert, Don Griffith, Alan Young, and Alan Dinehart.
Bernie Mattinson.
Bernie Mattinson, yeah.
Nice Irish boy.
Yes. It is Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yep.
It was. What is your first kind of reaction?
I have no impression or recollection. If you said, you know what, we made a mistake, we forgot to watch it, I would be like, oh yeah, I don't remember it. So yeah, I guess we didn't. I would believe you, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't remember much.
This one made me mad.
Yeah.
For the very reason that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, this is that thing I was talking about before. This is, well, we get an A just for showing up.
We're Mickey.
No, you do not, Disney. You do not get an A just for showing up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to just take all your characters and put them in A Christmas Carol and not really do that much extra work to make it a cohesive whole and expect me to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Me. I'm not saying nobody. I think a lot of people really like this.
Yeah.
Because how could you not?
It's Mickey.
It's Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah.
As Ebenezer Scrooge. A role he was born to play.
Born to play.
You got Mickey Mouse. You got Goofy. You got Jiminy Cricket. Donald Daisy. Everybody.
Everybody.
But that's the thing. Like, it's everybody. This is a Disney's greatest hits of characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we are going to fit every single character who has ever appeared previously in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
We are going to fit them into this.
Yeah.
In some way, whether they work or not.
Whether they want to be in it or not.
Yeah. And like, we also are going to create no new characters.
Yeah.
That is our rule for this production. No new characters.
Yeah.
Everyone has to be somebody. And it ends up playing, I don't know if this is going to make sense. It ends up playing like, when we do these like Muppet castings?
Yeah.
I remember reading a blog post that someone did about like, Muppet Pride and Prejudice, which like we've talked at length about.
Yeah.
And I feel like the problem that I saw people fall into, making a Muppet movie, a quote unquote, like casting a Muppet movie, is you make the assumption that only existing Muppets can play all the characters.
Yes.
Which is funny because that's not how any Muppet movie has ever worked ever.
Yeah.
There's always new Muppets. There's always human actors playing characters.
Yeah.
It's always a mix. And I feel like that's true for any animated movie, any Disney movie. Whereas this one is, nope, literally, we need a ghost of Christmas present. We need someone big and boisterous. What about Willie the Giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk?
Mm-hmm.
He's a big guy. his character doesn't really fit this character even a little.
Yeah.
But he's big, so let's have him. Jiminy Cricket plays the ghost of Christmas Past. Why?
I don't know.
Like, it's Jiminy Cricket. It's just because he was in other stuff.
Sure.
And it really frustrates me.
I can see that.
I'm genuinely mad about this.
I just want to say this is tangential to the parents out there. Our kid does this thing where it's like for 1 day or 2 days he only wants to watch one show and then he goes on to the next thing with like bursts of YouTube in between. And I understand that because that's how I watch television. Like if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to watch 60 episodes of it and then never watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
He got into Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for about a day and a half. It is awful. Like if you can if you can prevent your children, there's 8,000 episodes of it and it is simply terrible.
I didn't know you felt this way.
It's really bad. Have you noticed like how like gendered it is and like the girls do such girly things and the boys do boy things?
Yeah,
and, like,
I have noticed
at
that.
one point I had to explain to him what a girlfriend was because they were talking about how Daisy was Donald's girlfriend. And he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I didn't care for that. It's just very like Daisy's got to do a dance. She's got to do a dance performance. We all have to help Daisy with her dancing.
On the flip side,
Yeah.
he and I were watching an episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Wherein Professor Von Drake shows up with a potion and Donald goes, "Oh, a milkshake." And he drinks it and it turns him into a frog.
Yeah.
Which is very funny.
But that episode was the one that I objected to because it was like a rescue the princess kind of thing.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
As much as a rescue the princess trope is not a great thing to have, you weren't paying 100% attention. So he and I were watching it, and you were like in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the irony was not lost on me.
Yeah.
And
it's not barefoot.
Yeah. So from the kitchen later, because they basically what Von Drake tells them is like the only way you can turn him back. I'm not going to do the accent. The only way you can turn him back is he needs a kiss from the princess. So they look in a tower and there's Daisy, who's the princess, and they have to go rescue her. And that's the point. So
and I started yelling about consent from the kitchen.
Well, the thing you said was like, oh, so the only reason he turned into a frog was so he could get a kiss.
Yeah.
And you were so mad because like clearly Donald just turned himself into it. I was like, you haven't actually been watching.
Well,
Donald doesn't want to be a frog. He didn't ask for this. He thought he was drinking a smoothie. He didn't know that this was going to happen.
there was still a lesson about consent in there somewhere.
No, that consent ended up being a really big part of it because they showed up and they said, "Daisy, kiss this frog." And do you remember what she said?
Yeah.
She said, "No, I'm not going to kiss a frog. I don't want to do that. Also, I don't believe that's Donald. I think you're lying to me."
To make me kiss a frog. Anyway.
I cannot believe that I'm spending the what little precious time I have on Earth defending Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Well, you made me defend an American Christmas Carol, so.
I'm just saying you were not paying attention and you were a little mean to the show.
It's not very good, and it basically has the same plot as Blue's Clues, which is much better.
I mean, Blue's Clues is much better than most shows.
Find things.
Yeah.
And I wish he would just watch Blue's Clues all the time.
I also wish that.
Yeah. Anyway.
We have now, I think, officially spent more time talking about Mickey's Christmas Carol than it would take to watch Mickey's Christmas Carol, because the thing we didn't mention is that they do a goddamn speed run of the material.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about it in the silent version way back at the beginning, that Scrooge just kind of like goes through his arc way too quickly. Kind of happens in this one too, because this whole thing is less than half an hour.
Yeah.
I think under 30 minutes is not enough time to do justice to the story of A Christmas Carol.
Even with Mickey.
Yeah, even with Mickey. It just does nothing. Do you know who doesn't have any lines in this?
Who?
I noticed Minnie. Did you know she has no lines?
Yes.
You did notice that?
Yes.
Well, I feel a little silly.
It's the type of thing I notice.
Yep. I mean, that's fair. I feel like, here's the thing, sweetie. If your goal is to make me feel like an asshole, deservedly, you've done it.
Well,
Congratulations.
You gave me shit about the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
I feel like a bit of a shithead right now, and I feel like I deserve to feel that way right now. Is that accurate? I'm just going to sit in this for a minute.
Yeah, just sit in your shame.
Yep.
Patriarchy harms everybody.
Doesn't feel good, and I feel like it's not supposed to.
Yep.
Would you like to move on?
Sure.
Like, I feel terrible about this one because I know that this is one people love, but like it's...
I mean, gotta call him like we see him.
If you just want to watch characters you like for half an hour.
Like, it's
why
inoffensive.
Would you...
Just
no,
no.
I was going to say, why would you watch
just
this?
Watch the Muppets.
Just watch like the cartoons that all of these characters were in beforehand.
I feel like the moral of this episode is going to be never watch any Christmas Carol except the Muppets. We have watched all of them, and we are telling you none of them are as good as the Muppets.
That's as inaccurate, but not
inaccurate, but true.
Not crazy inaccurate.
All right. Should we just talk about another one briefly?
It was fun that we watched both of these back to back because they felt basically like
a pair,
like a really strong pair.
Yeah.
A Flintstones Christmas Carol, 1994. This was a TV special. It aired in November 1994. Directed by Joanna Ramirza, written by Glenn Leopold, which is, of course, Hanna-Barbera, but like, 90s Hanna-Barbera.
Sure.
So what I'm about to say, I don't know if it's going to sound weird. The animation is somehow worse than like old Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Which was like famously terrible animation.
Is a non-zero chance I saw this when it was on TV? Because like that's the time I would have been watching like Christmas stuff on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't remember it, but like non-zero chance I saw this when it was on in 1994 or whatever.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I thought... I don't know what your expectations were, because like Mickey's Christmas Carol is literally just like, it is a Christmas Carol, but all the characters are played by the Disney characters we love.
Yes.
I was kind of expecting the same thing for this one, but then we got a weird repeat of Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol.
It was very like Mr. Magoo. It had the same sort of framing device as Mr. Magoo.
Because as I'll just remind everyone, because obviously everyone listening to this listened to part 2, where we talked at length about Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. The whole thing centers on Magoo being an actor, playing Scrooge on Broadway.
Yes.
In this one, it's like a community theater version of A Christmas Carol, and Fred Flintstone, I just want to be specific in case anyone gets confused, he is playing Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes.
Sorry, I said that wrong. Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Because it's the Flintstones.
Because it's the Flintstones.
And that's what we do. We make rock jokes and bone jokes. So they're putting on a play.
Yeah.
Barney plays Bob Craggett.
Yeah.
Betty's in it.
Yep.
Wilma ends up being several parts in it because all of the other female parts get sick.
They come down with the bedrock flu.
Yep. And so Wilma has to play the Ghost of Christmas Past, and she also plays Belle.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate. And I thought, okay, I guess we're in for what we had with Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. It's just going to be a Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
With the characters that we know. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was the experience of like for you to watch this with me?
Yeah.
Because from what I recall, I feel like I really got a bug up my ass to defend this movie.
Yeah.
Did I?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Oh, sorry. John Rhys Davies also plays Charles Dickens.
Yeah. You did like that. I do remember that. I just remember thinking, when are they going to do A Christmas Carol? Because like the framing device is like 95% of the movie. It's like Fred gets a swelled head about being the lead actor and has to be taught a lesson about humility and appreciating your family.
Yeah, because we're shown many times that he does not appreciate his family, and he's doing the Christmas shopping way too late. By the way, whose birth are they celebrating?
Unclear.
It's just one of those things that you just have to kind of give yourself up to the fiction.
But we do see him dropping Pebbles off at daycare because he is a 90s dad.
Yep.
But like doing a bad job at like changing diapers and stuff because he's a 90s dad.
Yeah. One of my notes is literally, I wonder if this is going to be about A Christmas Carol at any point. I forgot that I had actually written that down.
No, because I remember you complaining about that. So I'm impressed you wrote it down. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't have much else.
I just have one big thing and maybe a couple of other small things.
Yeah.
Here's the big thing. They make a choice that I ended up appreciating a lot as a choice, just academically.
Yeah.
I still don't think this was very good. I think it's pretty weak.
Yeah.
Like, it's not very funny. The animation's pretty janky. It's like okay at best.
Yeah.
But the thing they decide to do is there is in it a pretty straightforward retelling of A Christmas Carol. It's got all the parts.
Yep.
It's got everything there. But the thing that makes it a special, the thing that makes it a Flintstone special is, as you say, Fred learns a lesson because he doesn't appreciate his family and he's shitty to Wilma. And through playing Ebenezer Scrooge and through having Wilma like be in the show, he learns to be a better husband.
Right.
And he has an arc.
Right.
And so A Christmas Carol the fiction of A Christmas Carol is inspiring our main character to be a better person and have a character arc.
Yes.
As a strictly academic exercise,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Because what are you going to do when you want to do A Christmas Carol, but you're in charge of the Flintstones? Like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to just do A Christmas Carol, but have them all be the Flintstones characters and not really acknowledge that they're not really the characters? They just look like them, like Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And have something that is ultimately incredibly empty.
Okay.
Or
yeah,
are you going to say, no, we have our characters. Our characters are well defined. We're going to tell a story about our characters. The story about our characters is also going to involve the story of A Christmas Carol, but it has to affect our characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it puts the characters first, I'm not saying this with any great love for the Flintstones.
Yeah.
I watched the Flintstones when I was a kid. I enjoy the Flintstones. Don't love them. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And it kept me from hating this special because it is not very good.
Okay.
But I just feel like it's important for me to stand up and defend this weird TV special from 1994.
Stand in your truth.
I gotta stand in my truth.
I didn't really like it.
I know you didn't. See, this was what I remembered. I remembered us watching it, and you were like, blah, 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 criticism, blah, 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 criticism.
It just didn't capture me.
And like, I just remember sitting there going like, well, hang on, sweetie.
Here's why this is good. Let me explain it to you.
No, I think the way I said it was more like, here's why I'm worried this is good. I think it might be good, and I also don't enjoy it, but maybe it's good, and maybe we need to actually really examine whether it's good.
Yeah. I would love to talk about the next one.
I mean, do you want to introduce it?
I took a lot of notes on this.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Was it a Lifetime movie?
A Lifetime movie?
What kind of movie was this?
This was a goddamn VH1 original.
This was a VH1 original. It was A Diva's Christmas Carol.
This, by the way, has been on the list. I got a copy of it a year ago. After we finished doing part 2 because I knew I wanted to do it for this year.
It's A Diva's Christmas Carol starring Vanessa Williams as Ebony, one name.
Scrooge.
Ebony Scrooge, but she doesn't go by her last name. She's a one-name superstar.
Yep. VH1 original aired December 13th, 2000 on VH1, written and directed by Richard Schenkman.
A nice Irish boy.
Yeah, sure.
Ebony is a superstar. Much like Beyonce, we learned that she was once part of a girl group, like a 3-person girl group, and then became a solo artist in her own right and much more successful.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did they do that shitty thing where they like come up with a pop group and like we never really see them being believable pop stars? Like certainly they don't have like a song that's catchy.
Not only do they have a song, but it's a fucking bop. It's a fucking bop.
Do you want to talk about Heartquake?
Heartquake. They sing it constantly. We see the old VH1 video of them, and we see them actually performing it. I think we see them performing it like 2 or 3 times.
This movie gets a lot of mileage out of Heartquake.
Out of Heartquake, yeah. So they have their big hit, Heartquake. And we learn that one of her former co-stars has died.
Yep. Oh, Marley Jacob.
Marley Jacob died tragically.
Played by Razonda Chili Thomas from TLC.
Yeah. And the other, in sort of a Dreamgirls manner, is living in sort of obscurity and poverty.
That was Stephanie Biddle as Terry.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Terry.
We don't talk about Terry. No. Okay, so Ebony's problem is that she is very miserly. She's mean to her staff. They're on tour in France and trying to shoot this music video, and she's being super mean to like all the crew and the director and everybody. And she's got her own crew, and she makes them like all share one hotel room, and they can't go home for Christmas, and like they're on the tour bus all together, and they're kind of scrappy and fun. And then she has her manager, Bob Cratchit, who we later learn used to be her boyfriend, which is weird.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that.
Yeah, I didn't think that was necessary even a little. But anyway, he's got a wife and kid at home, and his great tragedy is he is not going to be able to get home for Christmas, and his kid has movie disease.
Yeah. TV movie disease.
TV movie
Not
disease.
even movie disease.
Yeah.
TV movie disease.
TV movie disease. One thing that I really appreciated in this was the scene where all of her crew is on the tour bus in France, and they're watching VH1 on the tour bus, and the Heartquake music video comes on, and all these young people start making fun of like the 80s fashion. But this movie is from 2000, so like what they're wearing is just equally ridiculous. Yeah. And in fact, the 80s stuff I think looks significantly better than what the folks have on in the tour bus. So,
cruel irony.
Oh, cruel irony that time passes in the way that it does. So Ebony is in her hotel room, and she is being really mean to the room service people and ordering her like pasta in a very particular way. What I wrote down was, this woman would not eat carbs.
In 2000?
I don't know. Carbs were... No, 2000 was like the height of Atkins.
You're 100% right.
She absolutely wouldn't be eating carbs.
Yeah.
And is visited by the ghost of her former co-star, Marley Jacobs, and takes her down this path of repentance and redemption. I will say, one thing that you cannot take away from this movie, no matter anything negative that you have to say about it, because this movie's batshit crazy. One thing you cannot take away from this movie is that I believe that of every Christmas Carol that we have watched, of every one, I believe that this is the only one that passes the Bechdel test. And that is not for nothing. And not for nothing, it has Black women centered. A story that centers Black women and their relationships with each other, and not in the context of their relationships with men necessarily. You cannot take that away from this movie.
No.
Now let's make fun of it.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of liked it. Like
it actually wasn't that bad.
It really wasn't that bad. Like, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like it is pretty bad. Here's what I'll say. It was better than I expected.
Yes.
But still not as good as I had hoped.
I would say the sisterhood stuff was much better than like the Bob Cratchit stuff.
Yeah.
I found the Bob Cratchit stuff to be deeply stupid.
All of it.
Yeah.
Everything with his family, everything with his kid. I hated it. I hated all of it. That stuff was all terrible. But like everything with Ebony and, as you say, her band.
Yep.
I would also say especially Ebony and her niece.
Oh, her niece was great.
Olivia, played by Amanda Brugel, from which we recognize from Handmaid's Tale.
There you go.
So good. So clearly this was produced in Canada as well.
Yeah.
Just like Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
But she's fantastic in it. Like, they have a great relationship, and her acting is great.
Her acting's fine.
Vanessa Williams is not that good in this.
I thought she was not bad. Honestly, I thought she was fine. I didn't think she was that bad.
She's okay.
She's fine.
The movie keeps trying to do this ironic detachment that I don't really care for, where she's like being presented with something truly amazing and awe-inspiring, but they're just trying to show how just completely detached she is.
Yeah, I know you don't like that.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because the reason I don't like it is because it's not consistent. Like, sometimes she has genuine reactions to things, and sometimes she's just like, I'm just going to say a joke about this crazy thing that's happening
I guess
right
we're
now.
doing ghosts now? Like, that's the kind of thing you don't like.
Yeah, I can't stand that kind of stuff. So everything with all of this like core cast of women was great.
Yeah.
Was great. I had no problem with it. It was like nicely written, had nice arcs. All the characters were nicely developed. Heartquake, as we say.
A fucking bop.
It's a banger. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of a banger. Let's talk about these ghosts for a little bit.
Yeah.
Ghost of Christmas Past. Whatever happened to Kathy Griffin? No one talks about her anymore. No one ever.
Oh boy.
It's Kathy Griffin as the Ghost of Christmas Past.
I heard she got her Twitter account back.
She did. No, yeah. Elon was
very, very generous.
Yeah, he was really, as he was busy sticking it to the libs, he was also saying like, yeah, but I gave Kathy Griffin back her account. Oh, man, Twitter. I cannot.
Let's not talk about it. I'm sorry I brought it up.
I cannot stop watching the dumpster fire. The whole thing is just amazing.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Anyway.
We want these episodes to be as timeless as possible, so let's not talk about it.
Kathy Griffin is doing her 2000 Kathy Griffin thing.
Yeah.
Which one was she in? Not Desperately Seeking Susan. Suddenly Susan?
I don't know.
What show was she in?
I don't know.
Look it up while I talk.
I was not allowed to watch it, whatever it may have been.
Probably not. I just okay. Let me find this out really quick. What was the internet? Kathy Griffin. IMDb.
Grace Under Fire.
Suddenly Susan.
Yeah.
I was right. From 1996 to 2000, she was in Suddenly Susan, which is like perfect. That's Kathy Griffin era right there. 2000. And you know what? She's fine. Like, she's fine. She's definitely, like, not as funny as the movie kind of wants you to think she is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's her fault.
No,
I'm saying
I get it.
That's the writing's fault.
Yeah.
But she's fine. Then the Ghost of Christmas Present. This was kind of a weird one because it's music. Like with Kathy Griffin, she had nothing to do with music.
Yeah.
But Ghost of Christmas Present is John Taylor, literally in Duran Duran, playing this very, very like rock and roll, like, British long hair, but wears a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the way that he was introduced? Because, like, as we all know, the Ghost of Christmas Present, Scrooge walks in and there's like a feast.
Yeah.
And there's come in and know me better, dude. Like, the big guy, that kind of thing. In this one, he's surrounded by like coked out groupies.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I can see what they were kind of going for because, it's like the music business, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Maybe it would have had more of an impact in 2000 or if I knew what Duran Duran was.
That, you make me sad. I'm saying, like, if what you want is for this guy to embody the Christmas spirit,
Yeah, I
feel
see what you're
like
saying.
coked out groupies is not an amazing way to show that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the Christmas element of this was very muted.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't really very Christmassy
No.
at all.
Like, it's mentioned a lot. Like,
it's mentioned a lot. Like we can't get home for Christmas.
Yeah.
But
if you just look at how many times the word Christmas is mentioned in the movie, like, it's a buttload.
Yeah.
So many
like,
times.
obviously it's Christmas, but like, I don't know. It wasn't particularly Christmassy.
Yeah. I want to talk about one of my favorite choices that this movie makes, though.
Okay. I have a couple of candidates, but you go on.
Yeah. Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah.
Played by Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay. Funny. Spitfire. Ghost of Christmas Present. Played by John
Duran
Taylor.
Duran. Yep.
Literal rock star.
Yep.
Ghost of Christmas Future. Would you like to tell everyone who was cast as the Ghost of Christmas Future?
You go ahead.
In 2000's A Diva's Christmas Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Future is played beautifully, I think, by the television program VH1's Behind the Music.
Simply stunning.
I went through every emotion when this happened because at first I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, because she sits down, she's in her hotel room and she turns on the TV and it's VH1's Behind the Music and they're talking to people about someone who has died. And they're like, yeah, Ebony, she died. And she's like, wait, what am I watching? Commercial break, right?
Yeah.
Everything goes black and then we come back. And at first, my immediate reaction was, well, this is a funny way to introduce this segment.
Yeah.
I wonder what the ghost is going to look like when they inevitably show up at the door.
Sure.
Then as time went on, I started to think, is the ghost going to be... Is the show is the ghost? The show is it?
Yep.
And I was angry.
Yeah.
And then I came back around to
like
it.
The 5 stages of grief.
And I got to acceptance pretty quick. And it's great.
Yeah.
I have just a ton of respect for the fact that a VH1 original movie of A Christmas Carol cast one of its own TV shows as the ghost. Because everything with the Ghost of Christmas Present, that entire section is just her on a couch in her hotel room watching an episode of VH1's Behind the Music. But they're interviewing Cratchit.
Yeah, and Cratchit's like, my son is dead. Disease.
I missed my son's death because she wouldn't let me go home for Christmas.
What the fuck? Yeah.
I just think that's a heck of a choice. I think it's appropriate. I applaud it. I'm fine with it.
I liked the part where Ebony is being interviewed. I think this is in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's dead in the future.
She's dead in the future. Well, I don't know. There's some clip of a news segment that she's on, and someone's like, and Ebony, this is your new album. This is really exciting because it's the first $25 CD. And it's like supposed to show how greedy she is. Oh no, this is in real life.
Yeah.
Because she's like, no, I'm gonna donate all the money, to children.
To the homeless.
Sick children. Yeah.
Was it to the homeless?
No, I thought it was to sick children. I thought that was her whole thing, like sick children.
No, it's to the homeless because
to the
there's
homeless?
definitely because there's they constantly keep going back to the homeless shelter.
Yeah.
Remember?
I thought it was sick children.
No, it was the homeless.
Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, I just thought it was funny that that was some kind of milestone that it was the first $25 CD because of course a CD doesn't cost the same at any store that you go to. They cost different at different stores. So it's not like the CD is issued and the manufacturer of the CD is well, this is a $25 CD.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they did. There's always a list price.
It costs different. Like if you go to Walmart or if you go to like the fancy CD store in the mall, the same CD might be a different price.
Well, no, but that's because, so I will say that I worked for 4 years at Borders Books and Music, so I have some experience with this, because Borders was one of the places that was like, we are going to charge the goddamn list price and you idiots will pay it. But all the idiots were like, no, we won't. And Borders was like, why are we losing money?
Okay. All
like
right.
literally a CD was always list price.
All right.
So like $18.99, $19.99, that was the cost of a CD. And you're like, people will go, I could go across the street to Walmart and get it for cheaper. And I would just have to go, yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. You absolutely could. You definitely could. It was really frustrating.
All right.
And in the 4 years I worked there, the music section just shrank and shrank and shrank and shrank. And the leadership at Borders was just like, why aren't people buying our CDs? It doesn't make any sense.
And music is not working.
Yep. So yeah, there's a list price. So obviously,
all right,
most
Mr.
places are not going to most places are not going to sell it for $25, but they do get to set the price, and there is a list price.
All right. Anyway,
why did I write down, sweetie? I hate to tell you this, but the movie has covered for the timing. I feel like there was something that happened at the end that you were really mad about.
Oh yeah, I was. So Bob is like, I'm leaving. I'm going home for Christmas. She like calls his wife from the car and is like, call Bob. And no, she calls
She's
Bob
like, her
and
wife's
says,
like,
don't leave.
His wife's like in Ohio or something like that, but they're all in New York City.
And so she goes to meet him at the airport and she's like, don't get on the plane. And then then calls the wife and the wife's like, okay. And then suddenly the wife and the son are getting off the plane. I was like, there is no way that the wife and the son, the phone call woke her up from bed. There is no way that she got to the airport to a commercial flight with the kid in the amount of time that they would just like still be sitting at the airport. That is ridiculous. And you were like, no, for some reason it works. I don't know.
No, because I remember you said like she literally called them while she was driving to the airport.
Yes.
How could they be there?
Yes.
And that was when I reminded you about all of the things we had seen happen in the present.
But I'm just saying, like, it's a commercial flight. It's not like she it would be like hours and hours and hours later. It's not like she like sent a private plane for them.
With a dying child, by the way.
With a dying child. He looked, oh my God, when he gets off the plane, he looks terrible.
He looks like he's going to drop dead.
Yeah,
like immediately.
Simply terrible. And we never find out what's wrong with him. He just has mystery disease.
Yeah.
But then like she pays for his treatment or something and he gets better. I don't know.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And Heartquake's a banger.
Heartquake's so good.
I'll link to it in the show notes.
All
right, we're coming up. We're in the home stretch.
Yeah.
Home
stretch. Let's do it.
Only 2 left.
Yeah. Point to the outfield.
So we have a Christmas tradition going back several years now.
A new one. If you do it 3 times, it's a tradition.
That's right.
Yes.
Would you like to tell everyone about our Christmas tradition and how it relates to this next version?
The thing we got into in the last couple years, the winter that Calvin was born. I don't think we were into this before he was born.
No.
Was watching this. I'm going somewhere with this. Watching like old crooners Christmas specials. So we'd been watching a lot of like the Bing Crosby Christmas special and like the Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin family Christmas hour and like the Judy Garland Christmas special, like all of these like TV specials that are of course on blessed YouTube. And then something got recommended to me, which was Peter Pan Goes Wrong. And we were familiar with the Goes Wrong show because we had seen a small clip of it from some performance.
I'd been watching it for years.
Yeah.
Like it was just this
but it was just that
10-minute
one clip.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they did like more stuff. It was like an hour-long special. God, it's hard to describe. Imagine a production of Peter Pan that turns into a fiasco. Like the Goes Wrong show, like their whole thing is doing like a show that goes wrong. So they do lots of like pratfalls and stunts and like funny things. They fall down a lot.
I mean, that's all you really needed to say. Like, they fall down a lot.
They fall down a lot.
And that's why you love it.
And I think it's very funny. There was a wonderful, wonderful episode of This American Life, 20 years ago maybe, called Fiasco. One of the segments was this description of like a production of Peter Pan that just went completely off the rails. I always think about that whenever we watch this Goes Wrong show. And I just remember like driving in the car with my dad when I was like a teenager and both of us just like laughing so hard at this episode called fiasco. I think I like bought the audio because you can't listen to This American Life for free anymore. I think I like bought the audio at one point, and where was I? Anyway,
You went back so much further than I expected.
I went back so many years. Anyway, I don't really know how to describe this. It's really funny.
I mean, like, can I tell you what I kind of expected you to say? So every Christmas, we watch Peter Pan Goes Wrong from the wonderful crew that does the Goes Wrong show.
Yeah.
Which is great, and everything they do is fantastic. And it's funny that that's what we watch every Christmas, when they also did A Christmas Carol Goes Wrong.
Well, we didn't know that at the time. And I feel like Peter Pan is has a very Christmassy feel to it.
Well, it was definitely a Christmas special because they make fun of like pantomimes.
Yeah,
in it
exactly.
A lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like we've talked about the Goes Wrong show on Adapter Parish Plus a lot, but maybe not so much on this show.
You can watch it. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, do whatever you need to do to get it, because everything they do is hilarious and they're just so good and funny, and I love them.
If you think people falling down is funny, or if you think like people doing amateur theater badly is funny, like if you like Waiting for Guffman and you also like people falling down, like it really is the sweet spot of things that I think are very funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, they did this version of Christmas Carol. And so one of the things in the Peter Pan show is that David Suchet is in it playing himself, like as the narrator. Like it was a big score for this group. They got David Suchet.
Yeah.
So in this one, Derek Jacobi is playing himself. And basically the premise is that Derek Jacobi was supposed to be starring in this BBC production of A Christmas Carol as Scrooge. And this acting company,
the Cornell Polytechnic Drama
Society
yeah,
came in, abducted Derek Jacobi, and took over the production.
Yeah.
It's very funny. It's very funny. It's hard to describe because it's so very funny and very, very physical. Like very physical comedy.
I feel like it's incredibly easy to describe.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe why we love it so much.
Yes.
But it's super easy to describe. It's a bunch of bad actors doing
a bad job.
A really bad job at doing a show, and that's the point, and it's very funny.
Yes. And there's also sort of a subplot of like the relationships between the actors and how they're sort of shaking out over the course of the show.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Like, it's kind of like Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, not Mickey's Christmas Carol, but like Flintstone
Flintstones.
Christmas Carol, where it's like characters we've gotten to know putting on a show of A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
So
and learning
like,
a lesson along the way.
Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, Scrooge is played by Chris.
Yeah.
Who is the director.
The director.
And we've gotten to know Chris, like this is the actor is Henry Shields, but like his character is Chris. He's also one of the writers. So it was written by Henry Lewis, Jonathan Sayer, and Henry Shields, all three of whom are in the show.
Yeah.
As different characters. Henry Lewis plays Robert, who's like big boisterous actor who's
very Brian Blessed like.
Yeah, constantly his whole running gag the entire show is that he is the Scrooge understudy.
Yeah.
And he will play Scrooge if Chris becomes
totally incapacitated, yeah.
And so he's constantly spending the show trying to incapacitate Chris.
Yes.
It's very, very funny. And Jonathan Sayer is Dennis, who plays Bob Cratchit. And it's great when you get to know these characters because, like, they do the same joke every time. So, like, the thing about Dennis, in every single episode or show they've ever done, Dennis doesn't remember his lines.
Right.
So coming up with new ways for them to feed Dennis his lines is the joke.
Yes.
Because it's different every single time.
It's very funny.
So they wrote the show. It was directed by Richard Bowden, who's actually making his second appearance as a director in A Christmas Carol episode because he also directed Blackadder's Christmas Carol, which we talked about last year.
That tracks.
Which I didn't like.
Yeah.
Because even though it was a funny Blackadder show, it wasn't in any way a satisfying episode of A Christmas Carol.
Yes. Whereas this, I think, kind of is.
It's really satisfying.
Yeah.
Because they do a very straightforward job of doing the story of A Christmas Carol.
There was something in it that I think I laughed harder than I've laughed at anything in any other version of Christmas. Not that Christmas Carol is particularly funny, but
yeah. What was that?
What?
What was the moment that made you laugh
I don't
so
remember.
hard?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
no, that's what I said. I said I don't remember. You weren't listening to me.
I'm sorry. So anyway, okay, but Derek Jacobi's in it as Scrooge, and he shows up in it multiple times trying to like.
That was the thing that made me laugh so hard was when they opened the door and he was standing there behind it like
Well, it was this amazing moment where they open the door. Chris opens the door of Scrooge's chambers, and it's Jacobi. And like literally, like I can't describe. I'm gonna try to describe it. I'm gonna explain the joke, which is gonna make it funnier. But it's in rapid succession. Chris yells Jacoby, and Jacoby yells ho ho ho, and then suddenly he gets a dart in his neck.
Yes, this is what made me laugh so
and
much.
then Robert runs in, grabs him, and just goes, "He's totally incapacitated." Oh, for God's sake, because he realizes that it's Jacoby and not Chris.
Right.
And it is a perfect moment. It's just one of those things that's like 5 perfect seconds of television.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
So funny.
So,
You have to watch it.
One of the other things they do that I will say, I don't think this works that well, but one of the things that they come up with is that one of the actors in the troupe, her aunt is Diana Rigg.
Yeah.
And so
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know, right? So she convinces Diana Rigg to be the narrator. And the thing that I think doesn't work is Diana Rigg is the way they have her be the narrator is she's clearly driving to the studio and FaceTiming them the entire time, but it doesn't.
I think it's pretty funny.
It's okay.
It's funny.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm just saying it's not very funny.
Yeah.
I don't think it matches the rest of the stuff.
Sure.
So Derek Jacobi and Diana Rigg are their two gets.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about how much this reminded me of A Flintstones Christmas Carol?
I mean, you just did a little bit, but sure, go ahead.
The thing they do that I really appreciated, and it really made it, for me, a more enjoyable watch, is the way all their shows work is you're constantly finding out more about what's going on backstage.
Yeah.
You mentioned, if you like people falling down and waiting for Guffman, if you also like Noises Off.
Yeah.
I think that's a really close one to this.
Sure.
Because one of the joys of Noises Off is watching the way that their lives backstage are affecting their performances on stage.
Yes.
And love triangles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the joys of the Goes Wrong show, that they've really developed these lives for the characters and romantic entanglements and stuff like that.
Sure.
One of the things about Chris, the director, is that the thing we found out is that he has spent the last few weeks as they've been rehearsing, being really shitty to everybody.
Yeah.
And in playing Scrooge and in doing the show, he learns a lesson about how he needs to be nicer to everybody.
Yes.
The same kind of way that doing A Christmas Carol taught Fred that he needed to be better to his wife and his kid.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the Flintstones Christmas Carol it was very successful, but I appreciate that they did it. In this one, I think it's surprisingly successful. And because we've watched so much of the Goes Wrong show, I don't know about you, I really love these characters.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yes.
And I love their stories. And I love...
Nancy is the only competent one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. Max, who is Dave Hearn, he is my favorite one of the entire bunch. Breaks constantly.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing that's happening in the show, and they play it so seriously, is he plays young Scrooge.
Right.
So we've got Chris as Scrooge with the Ghost of Christmas with the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah.
Who's dressed as a giant candle.
Yeah.
Observing the conversation between young Scrooge and Belle.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's happening is that Max is in a relationship with the actress playing Belle.
Yes.
And he is now convinced that she has been cheating on him and is going to leave him.
Yes.
And so him playing the scene of young Scrooge telling Belle not to leave him is really just Max telling her not to leave him.
Right, because the whole thing about Max is he's not, the joke about Max is he's not a very good actor.
Yes.
But in this scene, it's the spotlight is on him and he becomes Hamlet momentarily because
he's not acting.
Because he's not acting. Right, exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It is beautiful. Everything that the Goes Wrong show does is beautiful,
yes.
and I love it. Christmas Carol Goes Wrong, it's not my favorite Goes Wrong show.
Yeah, I think Peter Pan is still my favorite.
Peter Pan's pretty great, and there are even episodes of the actual
the
Goes Wrong show.
The haunted house one is so funny.
The haunted house one is amazing.
Yeah.
The show is incredible.
Yeah.
But they also make interesting little changes to A Christmas Carol,
Uh-huh.
the way that they turn Fred into Francis.
Yeah. So that Nancy can have a part.
So that Nancy can have a... is it Nancy?
Nancy's the actor, I think.
Annie.
Annie's the character.
Yes.
Yes.
Nancy Zamit is Annie.
Yes.
Yes. So Annie can have a part. They make Fred Francis.
Right.
But it's not a joke.
Yeah.
At all. The fact that Fred is now Francis is not a joke.
Right.
They're playing it completely straight, and they make it work for Fred now being his niece.
Right.
And I had
and
a lot
she
of...
has a bunch of physical comedy stuff that she's doing.
Yeah, her physical comedy
she's
is
so funny.
good.
She's so
Everybody's
funny. She's my
so
favorite.
good.
She's so funny.
I mean, the only reason she's your favorite is because she's the best one.
Yeah.
Like, way to be challenging, sweetie.
Yeah.
I'll just say before we move on, as everything they do, it is incredibly funny and surprisingly sweet and affecting.
Yes.
All right, we got one more.
One more.
You got the energy to do one more?
Yeah, let's do it. Come on, let's go.
Let's do it. Do you have the spirit in you? Ha ha ha. This is fun. I love that we get to do new movies.
Mm-hmm.
New movies that have literally been out for less than a month.
Amazing.
Like,
wild.
that doesn't happen to us very often.
No.
Less than a month ago.
Let the record state.
On November 11th, 2022, it was released in theaters for a week.
Yeah.
And then came out on Apple TV Plus on November 18th. And this is Spirited.
Yeah.
You all know it because you've been seeing pictures of it everywhere.
If you have Apple TV.
Well, no, I mean, they've been advertising it heavily.
Have they?
Everywhere.
I guess I don't see ads for things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is the new Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds Christmas musical.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming. And it was a delight to be able to put it on the list because it looked like the timing was going to work out great. Because this is the thing that annoys me. People who come out with new Christmas movies in like mid-December, lame. November. That's when you come out with a Christmas movie.
So we have time to record our podcast.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, look at this this adaptation of Scrooge, this animated one.
Not gonna be able
it's
to
not
watch
going to
it.
be in the episode because these dum-dums decided to wait until December to release it.
It is now currently December 2nd.
It comes out today.
Yeah.
It's available right now.
Well,
we actually could watch it right now and just talk about it.
We're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's not. It's too late.
It's too late.
It requires preparation. Okay.
Yeah.
Spirited. Directed by Sean Anders, written by Sean Anders and John Morris, with songs by Benj Pasek. Pasek? Do you know what it is?
Nope.
And Justin Paul. I'll name a thing that they've done that I know you're not a huge fan of. They did all the songs for La La Land.
Yeah, I did not like that.
I'll name another thing that they did all the songs and music for that I think you kind of like, and that's Dear Evan Hansen.
I don't know Dear Evan Hansen very well, except I know there's one song that's very good.
That one song is a banger.
It's a banger.
Yeah. It's the one about waving through a window.
Yes, that
What's
one.
it called?
Yeah.
That's the joke.
That's funny.
So we have Spirited.
Yes.
Do you want to describe the movie? Would you like me to? How do you want to do this?
Okay.
Because we had a fight about this one, I'm interested to see if that fight extends.
We had a fight
into this.
just about how much we liked it or didn't. Here's the premise. Every year, the spirits of people who have died, they've got a whole like Santa's workshop thing going on.
Major Santa Claus vibes.
Yeah. And
this.
every year,
The Santa Claus, I want
Yes.
to be clear, the Tim Allen movie.
they pick one person to be redeemed in a Scrooge-like manner.
Mm-hmm.
And they work all year for the big day, and it's like one single person. And the whole idea is if you can pick the right person, the sort of ripple effect of that person changing will emit lots of additional kindness and influence into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
like Marley is in charge.
Marley's in
He's
charge.
the head of this spirit agency. Did you get the impression that what they were saying was the original Christmas Carol haunting was the first one?
Yes, that was the impression that I got.
Yeah.
And we learn, even though it's very obvious from the beginning, we learn as a big reveal that Will Ferrell, who's the ghost of Christmas Present, was Scrooge when he was alive.
You saw that coming?
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Oh, really?
Like even a little.
Oh, I thought it was very obvious.
Really?
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
Anyway.
What made you think it was so obvious?
I just thought it was clearly going to be that because he was good friends with Jacob Marley and he was talking about having been around for 242 years and it was clearly Scrooge.
That's so funny because one of my problems with that aspect of it was that it like came out of nowhere.
Oh, I didn't think it came out of nowhere. I thought it was very obvious like from the very beginning.
Oh, that's funny.
Huh. Weird. Anyway, I mean, listen, I'm
not mad about it.
I know you have a degree in movies, but like I have a degree in dramaturgy and like that is clearly the thing that makes the movie supposedly work as a Christmas Carol, right? Yeah. Like he has to be Scrooge. So anyway, I think.
Okay.
I thought it was very obvious from the beginning.
That's fine.
So this year, and they've got like the Ghost of Christmas Past, and they've got the Ghost of Christmas Future, and there's all these fun elves that are just working. This is like their job.
They're spirits. They're not elves.
Well, they're sort of elf-like.
They're basically elves.
But they all lived and died.
Yep.
And they are able to use their power to assist on this one day, this one person per year. Oh, and it's a musical.
Oh, it's a heck of a musical.
Yeah, it's like a big showy Christmas musical.
Yep.
You didn't see my jazz hands there.
Pasek and Justin Paul, they also did The Greatest Showman.
Okay.
Which
I hear is good. I've never seen it.
See, I've heard it's bad, but like so much fun.
But like people love it.
Yeah.
Like people are really into it.
And that's the set. This from what I've seen of The Greatest Showman, this probably feels more like that than anything. Where it's just like, you want a dance number? Wait a second.
But that's what La La Land was like.
Yeah.
And I didn't like La La Land.
Like they go hard.
Yeah.
This goes very hard. Very
yeah.
hard.
So anyway, the Will Ferrell talks his boss, Jacob Marley, who's Patrick Page.
Who's amazing.
Who's amazing.
Patrick Page is one of the best voices I've ever heard in my entire life.
He's Judge Claude Frollo in the, I don't think it was ever on Broadway, the live musical version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he sings the song Hellfire that Calvin really likes.
Yes.
So Calvin, you just this little voice from the back of the car. Can we listen to Hellfire? Like, yeah, sure, buddy. Anyway, he's very funny.
Yep.
Calvin's very funny. Patrick Page is also pretty funny in this. He's very good. They're going to choose this other person, and Will Ferrell talks his boss into choosing someone whose file is stamped unredeemable. It's Ryan Reynolds.
Well, he wants Ryan Reynolds before he finds out that he's an unredeemable.
Right. And he's unredeemable, and he himself, this is again a big clue that he was Scrooge. He himself was an unredeemable, and they successfully redeemed him, Will Ferrell, but that was the only time that unredeemable apparently was redeemed. It's a little convoluted. And Ryan Reynolds, what is his job?
He runs a PR agency.
He runs a PR agency.
Yeah.
And
he has no scruples. He has no ethics. He will say and do anything he needs to get done the thing he wants.
Yeah. And
so he's like, the way we meet him is he is meeting with the Union of Christmas Tree Growers.
Yeah, to try to make like fake controversy about Christmas trees.
Well, yeah, because they're mad because people are buying fake Christmas trees.
Yeah.
And so Ryan Reynolds gets this big dang musical number where he's telling them how we're going to make a war between real Christmas trees and fake Christmas trees.
Right.
And
like
they're
culture,
all
like create a culture war.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so all he does is create culture wars.
Yes. And there's this whole thing about his sister is dead and her daughter's being raised by the brother, and he's paying for everything, and the niece is like going to run for student council, and he enlists his like
so he plays
right hand person.
He plays Clint Briggs, and his right, as you say, right hand person is Kimberly,
right,
played by Octavia Spencer,
right.
And so he says to Kimberly, like, get some dirt on this other kid that my niece is running against for student
who
council
everyone
president.
loves.
Yep.
Yeah, etc. And so she's like, I'm digging up dirt on a kid, like this doesn't feel right. And she gets a big musical number that gets like 3 reprises.
Yep.
And she ends up falling in love with Will Ferrell.
So like, I feel like you're skipping around a little bit. Do you mind if I
pull back?
I'm just gonna pull back a little bit, just a little bit.
I just want to say one thing.
Yep.
I did not like this movie very much.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few moments that I thought were funny.
Yep.
That I think I did laugh out loud a couple of times. There were a couple of songs that I thought were catchy.
Mm-hmm.
I had a problem with the tone. So maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, we can just get this out of the way right here. If you were giving it a score out of 100, where do you think you would fall?
40 to 45?
Yeah.
Like under the 50% mark.
And I think I would fall on like 55 to 60.
This often happens.
Yeah.
But you come down on the side of if 50 is the mark where you liked it.
I liked it.
And
I'm not going to lie. I came out of it liking it, even though I had lots of problems with it. And like every problem I had was a problem you had with it.
Yeah. It's just a matter of preference.
Just a matter of degrees.
Yeah. So you're going to pull me back.
Just a little bit. First of all, I will say a thing that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed how much care was given to the way the world worked.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things I really appreciated. So like when the spirits go to visit Earth to like scout their new person that they're going to get for the year, there's a lot of like, because you always have to establish rules of like, can people see them? Can people hear them? Do people walk through them? Like what happens with that? No one ever says this is how it works.
Yeah.
We get a scene where all of the rules are demonstrated.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate that because I feel like like so many movies like this have to explain everything.
Yes.
Just show it. It's fine.
Yeah.
We've seen movies like this.
Agreed.
And I kind of loved the way they introduced Ryan Reynolds' character, because the way it happens is they are at a hotel where this like tree growers union is having an event.
Yeah.
And they're there to scout the like manager of the hotel.
Yeah.
Who's a real shithead.
Yes.
While they're doing it, Will Ferrell is like the Ghost of Christmas Present, who we find out later was Scrooge.
Yeah.
That like literally no clues, could not see it coming. Never did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing could give you any indication that he's Scrooge.
Yeah.
He is basically like, this guy, how could, we're going to spend a year on this guy. How could he possibly create the ripples that we want?
Yes.
There has to be someone better. And then Ryan Reynolds walks through, and they see him talking to the Christmas tree growers and doing his big musical number. Clearly a guy with, as I say, no scruples, no ethics, nothing like that. I kind of loved two things about this. One, I really enjoyed how oppressively genuine Will Ferrell was in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it reminded me of him playing Buddy in Elf. And he's this very, like, wide-eyed, very innocent character.
Yes.
And so when he sees Ryan Reynolds, he's like, it's played like a love scene. Like,
right.
It's played like it's played like love at first sight.
Yes, like he's perfect.
Like, oh my God, he's perfect. It has to be this guy. I kind of loved that.
Yeah.
So he convinces everyone this has to be our guy.
Yeah.
And so then we fast forward really quickly through the year of them preparing everything. Really quickly, I just want to mention Ghost of Christmas Past is Sunita Mani.
She was great.
Her name is she plays a character named Bonnie. She's hilarious and fantastic.
Yeah, she's really funny.
She was
like my favorite. She was my favorite character, I think, in the whole movie.
She's great.
Yeah.
The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, classic. Big, tall, a guy named Lauren G. Woods played him, and it's, big, skeleton hands. You don't see his face the whole bit, but the voice is Tracy Morgan.
He's also very funny.
And it was one of those things where, like, it could have been nothing. It could have been terrible, but it actually is pretty funny.
Yeah.
They make the character a real character. He's not just a one-note joke, which the joke isn't the Ghost of Christmas Future sounds like Tracy Morgan.
Yeah.
That's not the joke.
Yeah.
The joke is he's a character who wants to talk more and wants to have a bigger part to play in their story every year.
Yeah. I would have loved, I think, a different movie about the three ghosts.
Sure.
Plus Marley.
Yeah.
Because I think those three characters had like great chemistry, were really fun, played really well off each other, the four characters, I guess. But I think the thing that I had a big problem with was like the plot of the movie, all the Ryan Reynolds stuff. Like I think I just don't like Ryan Reynolds, and I didn't like him, and I didn't like his like the whole point is his character's deeply unpleasant, and so I didn't enjoy spending time with him. I just wanted to hang out with the ghost characters.
Yeah.
So that was part of, I think, the issue I had. By the way, this movie's 2 hours and 7 minutes long.
It's a little long.
It's really long. Some might argue too long.
I think we are arguing it's too long.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about Ryan Reynolds then. I'm going to state something.
Okay.
I'm going to plant my flag. I like Ryan Reynolds.
Uh-huh.
I enjoy Ryan Reynolds. I think he's really funny some of the time. And it's the some of the time that gets me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think he's perfect. Like, I am a fan of the Deadpool movies. They are all about breaking the fourth wall. Like, ironic detachment is the thing that makes those movies work.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the time, the thing that makes Ryan Reynolds' movies work is the ironic detachment, which is what he does. I don't think I have ever genuinely felt that Ryan Reynolds is the character that he's playing.
Yeah.
I'm never transported. I'm honestly a little surprised that you don't enjoy him more, Brechtian actor that he is. Constantly reminding you that you are watching a movie starring Ryan Reynolds.
Sure, but like not on purpose.
No, totally on purpose. I don't think the fact that it's Brechtian is not on purpose.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the fact that it's breaking the fourth wall though is on purpose.
Sure.
Like, I think that's part of his entire thing.
I just want to say, to be Brechtian, it has to be on purpose.
Okay, that's fair. But that's his thing. His thing is breaking the fourth wall. His thing is ironic detachment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I watch a movie where he does it and I can't stand it because they're trying to make me identify with the character emotionally, and I'm just not, because it's never the character. It's always just Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's an asset, and sometimes it's the thing that sinks the movie. And in this, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where we get into the conversation about tone, which is that like I didn't think it was just Ryan Reynolds. I thought it was the tone of the movie. But like Ryan Reynolds' performance is a good example of this, is that like the movie had this sense of ironic detachment. The movie wanted to kind of break the fourth wall and like take you out of it and like make jokes about the fact that it was a Christmas movie.
Oh,
right? The movie had self-awareness.
Can I say the quick thing about musicals too?
Sure.
Like when we meet all the spirits at the beginning, there are like new spirits coming in, and it is revealed like, oh, the afterlife is a musical.
Right.
It's all a musical.
Right.
So the fact that it's a musical is never really functions the way we talk about musicals being like traditional musicals.
Right. Like if they're singing, they know they're singing.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But it was trying to have it both ways. It was trying to both be above sincerity and then but at the end have this incredibly over the top, very sincere, I would say corny, sappy ending. Like the ending was incredibly sincere. Will Ferrell and Octavia Spencer end up together having kids and like this happy little family. Like that, it has literally a happy ending.
Yes.
Right? For our characters that we like. I just thought it was such a mismatch or a mishmash of tone. It was like, we're not sincere, but you have to take this very seriously.
Yeah.
Like there was a suicide of a child.
Yeah.
In the Christmas future, like that's really dark. Also not surprising by the creators of Dear Evan Hansen, which is like that's the plot of the musical. But like incredibly dark.
Like, but to be clear too, like I didn't hate its presence because it was also very real, because it's one of the things of the reason that it happens is because of it's the kid that she's running, like his niece is running against for student council, and they like destroy him on social media.
Yeah.
That's the way they get her to win the election. And so what he finds out is then this kid died by suicide.
Right.
And the thing is, I was so torn when this was all happening, because it was like, this is so dark. And it is so tonally inconsistent with the rest of the movie.
Right.
But it is actually a real thing that happens in real life.
Right. But that's the problem, right? It's like, we're going to be a light, fun musical. We're going to make jokes about the fact that this is a Christmas. There was a very funny joke about Christmas Carol adaptations. But like, we're going to make jokes about the fact that this is a musical, and we're going to make jokes about the fact that this is a Christmas Carol adaptation, and we're going to be super self-aware, but then we're going to talk about issues. And I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, you can't have it. They want it both ways, and I don't think you can have it both ways without risking being extremely tonally inconsistent, which I felt this movie was.
And like I think it is possible to be both things, but it requires more finesse than the movie had.
I think that's right.
I don't want to say you can't do it.
Yeah.
The movie didn't do it.
Correct. Did you write down they made a very funny joke. Did you write down the funny joke they made about the Christmas Carol adaptation?
I didn't write it down word for word, but I can paraphrase it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the plot for a second.
Yeah.
So they know that they're going after this guy, Briggs, and they do their whole thing. And immediately he is like, I'm not going to take this seriously. I have questions. Wait, what's happening? What's happening right now? Like Marley appears to him and does the whole bit. And they've got him in like ghost makeup and it's really the chains and everything like that. And they keep interrupting the scene for him to go like, wait, but why are you doing this? What's happening? And Patrick Page is hilarious in the scene. But he's like, wait a second, this is a Christmas Carol? Because in this world, a Christmas Carol is a thing. I didn't hate that because it is.
Yeah.
It was doing it with a purpose, not just saying it was a thing and we're not going to explore that.
Okay. Yes,
I didn't hate it. But anyway, he says, so wait, this is a Christmas Carol? This is like Scrooge? Like the movie with Bill Murray and Bobcat Goldthwait? And Patrick Page's reaction is basically like, yes, just like the Bill Murray movie with Bobcat Goldthwait and every other Christmas Carol adaptation that nobody asked for.
Yeah, it was very funny.
We felt very seen
as
in that
people who
moment.
have seen now 25 versions of Christmas Carol.
We now have reached the conflict of the movie. And the conflict of the movie is the guy they've picked is not going to let them do the job they want to do.
Yes, because he's unredeemable.
Right. And he is smarter than them and wants to have a ton of philosophical debates with them about whether they can even do what they're trying to do.
Yes.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I don't think you did as much.
I did not.
That's
I did not. And again, like, it's just like this tone. Like, the stuff with the dying sister was so rough. Like, it was hard to it was, like, so real. You know, it was, like, hard to watch. But then we're whisked back to the past. and they're singing a song about like saying good afternoon means fuck you. Like it was just totally, it was like whiplash. It was, I don't know.
Well, let's talk. I actually do want to dig into the two things you just mentioned. So let's go. Let's come back to Good Afternoon in a second.
Okay.
But let's talk about the dying sister.
Yeah.
One thing that I did appreciate, that I did think was funny, is like, because of course, like Scrooge's big regret, the big thing that makes Scrooge cry is Belle.
Right.
And he has a bell, like Clint has a bell. His bell is Nora.
Right.
And Will Ferrell has to take over for the Ghost of Christmas Past because Clint sleeps with the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah.
And she has to
recuse herself.
She has to recuse herself.
It's pretty funny.
It is very funny. And they end up getting together at the end, which is really cute.
It's cute.
But he has to take over, and so he's working with Clint, and Clint is not giving him an inch throughout the entire thing. And there's just this, I think it's one of my favorite jokes in the movie, is he takes him back to like the Christmas party where he met Nora for the first time. And Ryan Reynolds is just looking at him, and suddenly Will Ferrell like pops the bubble of the scene and just bursts in directly like next to Ryan Reynolds' face and just goes, "Boy, that Nora was the keeper." And I died. I died a little bit. It is a joke that works really, really well. But the thing they show us is that while the Belle thing was the thing that made Scrooge sad, Nora wasn't the thing that makes Clint sad.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm fine. He's fine. Like they show her, they do the scene where he sees what Nora's life is like now with her family and everything.
Like, that's fine. That's not what I want.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't want that. I'm happy for her.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But his big thing was his sister had a kid on her own. Then she died of some kind of
movie
disease and asked him to take care of her daughter.
Yes.
And he said no, and basically lied to get her to ask their other brother to do it. And that was his big thing that he can't live with and can't accept and can't face.
Yeah.
On its own, as a choice, I appreciated that Clint wasn't Scrooge.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they were creating a new character who had his own thing. Like I compared this, I mean, they're comparing it to Scrooged in the movie.
Yeah.
I was comparing it to Scrooged constantly because I came out of the experience last year of watching Scrooge not liking it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't enjoy Scrooged. I thought it was kind of a mess. And one of the things I didn't like about it is like A Christmas Carol exists in that world, but also the Bill Murray character, his story completely 100% mirrors the story of Scrooge.
Yeah.
And that's too convenient. I don't like that.
Sure.
At least in this, Clint was his own character with his own backstory that didn't mirror Scrooge.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that as an idea, and that's a thing I enjoyed. Do you want to talk about Good Afternoon?
They go back to Scrooge's time. Scrooge takes him back to the past.
It's the big reveal.
It's the big reveal. He's like, I was Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Reynolds is like, whoa, that's intense, man. And then they sing a song about how good afternoon means, like, I don't know how else to describe it. They sing a song about how good afternoon means fuck you. And it's quite funny.
It's a real funny bop.
It's a real funny bop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's just... It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's fine. It's good. So, okay. So they sing this funny song. There's a bunch of songs, funny songs.
Mm-hmm.
I may have zoned out because I wasn't enjoying it. How do we get to the end? He is redeemed at the by the end.
No.
By the power of love.
The thing that's happening, there's like two things that are happening at once.
Yeah.
One is all the spirits are trying to redeem Clint.
Yes.
But the other thing that's happening is the Ghost of Christmas Present,
yes.
Scrooge, Will Ferrell,
right.
has been threatening to retire.
Yes.
And when he retires, he becomes human and gets a second shot at life.
Right.
He also has now fallen in love
with this lady,
with Kimberly.
Yes, who's great.
She's fantastic. Like Octavia Spencer's great in this movie.
Yeah, she sings good too.
I mean,
she sings okay.
Does she?
Yeah.
This movie has a lot of auto-tune in it.
Yeah?
And I'm not sure how liberally they applied it to all the different... They very liberally applied it to Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
I would say they liberally applied it to Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I think Octavia Spencer might have had quite a bit of auto-tune as well.
All right. I think she sounds good.
I think she sounds good. It just...
I don't know. She's done stage work. I feel like people who have acted can sing.
Yeah.
I think that tends to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is... I don't know that the movie is cast beautifully to be the big musical it is, especially when you have Patrick Page in it, who's kind of outperforming everybody.
Yeah, well, they didn't... I guess I thought I would see more, like, familiar musical theater actors than I did. Like, I actually thought it would be the kind of thing where it's like, oh, I recognize all these people, and I really didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are our two plots. They're trying to redeem Clint, but also Scrooge himself is like saying, I want to retire and
He's
get
trying
another
to
shot
decide,
at life.
yeah, what he's going to do.
Clint figures that out, so his goal is to get Scrooge to retire.
Yeah.
Because that is going to get everyone off his back.
Right.
And that's what ends up happening. So that's kind of how we get to the end, is Clint basically goes, hey, this whole thing about redeeming me, forget about it. Like, just forget about it, because now the thing you're all focusing on is the fact that the Ghost of Christmas Present is quitting.
Yeah.
And that is now taking all of your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we get to the end, because he does become human. He goes on a date with Kimberly.
Yeah.
It's a great date. And then Clint does get redeemed.
Yes.
My other favorite joke. It's a visual joke. It's just, I'll say what it is. It's literally just the Ghost of Christmas Future pointing at Clint's grave.
Yeah.
And like,
it's very funny.
I think it's the funniest visual gag in the entire movie, and I'm not going to explain why, because it is purely visual.
So anyway, he does get redeemed, around
yeah.
the stuff about the niece. Like, he just feels bad about
Yeah.
the kid and everything.
Yeah,
and
but the kid dying by suicide.
tells her to not post the video or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And then Kimberly shows up and she's like, I already told her not to do it because I'm a good person. And the family is sort of reunited and everyone's redeemed. And
then Clint dies.
And then Clint dies.
So Clint, well, no, the way he gets redeemed is he and Scrooge have now become, well, who's not Scrooge anymore. Now he's Roberto. Now that he's human, he has named himself Roberto.
Yeah.
And Roberto is about to be hit by a bus.
Yeah.
And Clint
pushes him out of the way,
and the bus freezes, and
Yeah.
everything freezes, and all the ghosts appear, and it's this big redemption moment because he just he risks sacrificing himself
right
to save his friend.
Right. So he's redeemed, and then time starts again, and he does in fact get hit by a bus and dies, which is awful. Oh, well, because his whole thing with Scrooge is that he's like, so how long did you live? Like, after you were redeemed, like,
Yeah.
what good works did you perform in the world? And Scrooge is like, oh, I died 3 weeks later, which is really funny. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I mean, it was the 19th century. Like, people died of stuff all the time. He's like, how could you possibly know? Like, it takes longer than 3 weeks. So, like, he's redeemed. So the joke is, like, Ryan Reynolds is redeemed and then dies immediately, like, literally a split second later. And then he becomes the Ghost of Christmas Present, and we see him, like, doing all the stuff that Will Ferrell used to do.
But better. Because he runs a PR
firm. He modernizes the ghost stuff, and Will Ferrell is now happily married to Octavia Spencer, and they're living together in the suburbs.
And they have kids and it's adorable, and now Clint is with the Ghost of Christmas Past, and that's like, really sweet.
He's like their ghost uncle, and he comes and visits the kids and everything.
And he's like going to create a Ghost of Hanukkah Past and Kwanzaa. He's going to expand.
Yeah.
They're going to expand their net basically to create more ripples.
Sure.
And like, I don't know when it was. And then it ends.
And then it ends. There's a big musical number, and then it ends.
Yep. And and then there's a big musical number, and then we move on to the next scene. It's like everything. I liked it. This movie basically beat me into submission. Like, it just attacked me with dancing, fantastic dancing, like objectively fantastic dancing.
Yeah.
Funny performances.
Yeah.
Witty writing.
Yeah.
It just attacked me with those things the entire time. So every time I was like, this plot isn't really working for me, the dancing would be like, yeah, but watch me for a second because I'm doing crazy dancing. And I feel like I was not as immune to that as you were.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Because I did not really like it.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
It's a big musical. It's pretty fun. I feel like, final words about this one.
Yeah.
I would recommend that people watch it.
Sure.
Would you?
I mean, like, I feel like the holiday time is approaching. People are always looking for more Christmas movies to put on in the background. Like, there is no reason not to watch it, but it is not very good.
Okay. So now we've gotten through our 10 new Christmas carols.
It's a lot.
I thought it would be kind of fun. Before we do all our quadrants, I would like to give my current, up-to-date top 10 Christmas carols.
As of today.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I already did my top 5 at the beginning, and I can say that my top 5 did not change.
Okay.
So, number 1, Muppet Christmas Carol. I'm going to go down because the top 5 is not different.
Yeah.
Number 1, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Number 2, Patrick Stewart. Number 3, Albert Finney, Scrooge.
Yep.
Number 4, that Guy Pearce one, the dark one that I responded to. Number 5, Alistair Sim.
Yep.
Because it's just perfect and classic.
Perfect classic.
Number 6, animated Stingiest Man in Town.
Wow.
Because, man, it's fun.
Wow.
It's so delightful.
So high up the list.
It was so good. We had so much
really
fun watching it.
I would watch that again.
Yeah. Number 7, live action The Stingiest Man in Town.
Wow.
Also so good.
Wild.
Like, despite its issues, despite its live nature, I really, really enjoyed it.
I would watch it again. I would like put it on. Like, you know,
Totally.
like maybe when we're on sort of the Christmas week, like let's put it on.
Yeah. Number 8, it's still not my favorite, but I have to admit it is like a fun, straightforward version of A Christmas Carol, and that's 1938's Christmas Carol with Reginald Owen.
Sure.
The Joe Mankiewicz one.
Yeah.
Like, I had my issues with it. It was not my favorite, but like, I have to admit, like, it was one of those ones. Now we're getting to the point where not doing anything necessarily bad kind of elevates it on the list.
Sure.
Because so many versions do so many things that are absolute batshit.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't really do anything that's batshit.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's funny that like that's still number 8. Like that's still pretty high.
It is
like,
pretty
you have
high.
to go pretty high. Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, what's number 9?
Number 9, Spirited. I just enjoyed it. But like, I think that speaks to the low level of quality of so many other ones.
Yeah,
and
that's
how
fair.
much those, like, Spirited didn't make me mad the way a lot of the other ones did.
Yeah.
Like, I got something out of it, even though I thought it could have been better, but it didn't make me mad.
Okay, what's number 10?
Christmas Carol Goes Wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would put that above Spirited.
I know you would.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I put it
didn't.
above the Reginald Owen one too. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's my personal preference. All right.
And once we get down there, like, I will, my bottom ones, like, once you get into like my bottom 5 or 6, now we're getting into like Mickey's Christmas Carol, Magoo's Christmas Carol. I mean, the bottom one, number 24, is still Jim Carrey.
Oh, so bad.
I hate that movie.
Really bad. No,
I really hate that movie. Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. Do you want to do some quadrants?
Yeah, let's run through these because there's 10 of them. So let's do it.
1913 silent movie Scrooge. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Seymour Hicks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's say yeah. He played the character for what, 30 years or something?
It was his life.
Yeah.
It was his life's work. Was it successful?
We can't judge it
for
by
what it
the
was.
Standards of our time. Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Why not? Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. 1956, Stingiest Man in Town. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No.
I don't think so either.
No, of course not.
Like, I think they wanted to make a fun musical.
Yeah.
I don't think they cared about A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Was it successful?
Yes.
Yes. 1977 BBC special Michael Hordern. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
No, I do not.
Gotcha.
No, I think it was like, all right, let's bang out A Christmas Carol.
We're the Beeb.
Yep.
This is what we do.
Yes.
Was it successful?
No.
You didn't think it was successful?
No, I don't think it was very successful.
Okay.
It was not engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say no.
See, I'd put it right on the line.
Yeah, put it on the line.
Like, it's fine.
It's
I
fine.
think it's fine. It's
inoffensive.
That's really what it is. It's totally inoffensive.
Well, yeah.
But nothing about it is nothing about it I would describe as very good.
Yeah.
None of it.
That's fine.
1978, The Stingiest Man in Town. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No.
No.
No, of course not.
Like,
no.
I don't think they cared about
Absolutely
A Christmas Carol. I don't even think they cared about the original Stingiest Man in Town. I thought they were like, a property
Yeah, no.
that we can do.
Not. Absolutely not.
But was it successful?
It was very good. Yes. Yes, it was very good.
They elevated it.
Yeah.
It is so good. I'm still so thankful that this was put on our radar.
Yes.
Oh, man. What a delight. An American Christmas Carol, 1979. Do you think they cared about the source material?
I do not. No, I don't think they did, no.
Despite the fact that Henry Winkler, again, a prince among men,
Yeah.
and just a real delightful person
Yeah.
who loved this movie, was it successful?
No.
No. Mickey's Christmas Carol, 1983. Do you think they cared about the source material?
I absolutely do not.
Not even a little. Was it successful?
No.
Was it successful if all you want is to spend half an hour with Disney characters you love?
Yes.
Yep. I'm saying that specifically because I don't want to take that away from anybody.
Sure.
Because that is a legitimate thing to want.
Judged on those merits, yes.
Yeah, judged on those merits, it's great.
I mean, you can say that about anything, really.
No, I don't. Well, no. Sometimes, here's the deal. Sometimes, like, you love characters and you watch it and it's terrible.
Sure.
And even for loving those characters.
Sure.
But, like,
it's not like, oh, Mickey, how could you? Like, it's Mickey.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
it is Mickey and Donald and Scrooge. Like,
Yeah.
they all are their characters.
Sure.
It just is, for us, I
Yes.
think it was an incredibly unsatisfying version of A Christmas Carol.
Yes. We need to say no more about it.
A Flintstones Christmas Carol, do you think they cared about the source material?
No, I do
yes.
not. What?
I think they reached down deep.
No,
and
you do not.
They knew that it's a story about redemption, and they decided to tell a story that was about redemption.
You've lost your mind.
You've
lost your mind.
Probably.
You are out of your mind.
I think someone cared about it enough to actually use it to tell a story with a character arc in it. Ask me if it was successful.
Was it successful?
No.
You've lost your sweet mind.
Wait, would you put it the opposite?
No.
Or you think no and no?
No, I'm just going back to the fact that you thought someone cared about A Christmas Carol.
I think they cared a little bit about A Christmas Carol. I think they cared a little bit. A Diva's Christmas Carol 2000. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No.
Do you think it was successful?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Frankly, yes. Yes.
Like shockingly.
Shockingly.
No, not shockingly successful. Shocking that it was successful.
Yes. It had no business being as successful as it was.
Which is kind of successful.
Yes.
A Christmas Carol Goes Wrong 2017. Do you think they cared about the source material?
No, not really.
I think they care about like TV specials of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think they're doing the story because they love A Christmas Carol.
Right.
Was it successful?
Yes, absolutely.
2022 Spirited. Do you think they cared about the source material?
Weirdly, probably a little bit.
See, I would say they didn't.
You don't think so?
The whole thing, this aspect of it, to me feels very manufactured.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I have no problem with changing my vote.
Yeah.
No,
I'm going to go
say
ahead
no.
and say no.
Yes.
Was it successful? Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Is this our biggest fight ever?
I think so.
All right. It's not that bad.
Well, this has been Adapter Parish. If you'd like to find us online, we're on Facebook, Twitter. Man, the thing I say every episode is we're on Twitter. I think we're not going to be on Twitter very long. Twitter is, it's kind of on fire right now. And
let's not make this episode timely, but we're maybe not on Twitter anymore.
I just think anti-Semitism is a bad thing. So I don't think we're going to be on Twitter anymore. And Instagram, @AdaptCast. You can join our groups on Facebook and Goodreads, and you can also find and follow me on Letterboxd. If you have anything to say that's longer than a tweet, you can always send an email to adapterparishcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are 3 great ways you can do it. First, tell a friend. Second, a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice would be greatly appreciated. Third, we are on Patreon. This show will always be free, but if you become a patron, you can get access to Adapter Parish Plus, our bonus show that releases between episodes of this show, and our patron-only Slack community. It's a lot of fun, and all the details are at patreon.com/adaptcast.
Bah humbug.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye.
Can't wait to do it again in a year.
See you next year.